Night Owls to the Book Club After Dark podcast, an inviting moonlit podcast. I'm your host, Danny.
And I'm Michelle. We break down fantasy, romantasy, and thriller novels.
All things enchanting, intriguing, suspenseful, and maybe a little spicy.
Each episode features intimate discussions on captivating stories, character breakdowns, fan theories, and more. And this is your content warning. This podcast contains mature themes and discussions that may not be suitable for all audiences. Episodes include explicit language, as well as depictions of violence and other intense subject matter. This podcast is rated R for mature audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
And going forward from here, there'll be lots of spoilers, of course, for our last book in the series, Breaking Dawn by Stephenie Meyer, and of course other references to Twilight. So consider this your spoiler warning.
Let's get cozy because the best stories are told after dark.
Tonight's drink of the episode we're calling Venom. Obviously, this is a play on the themes we have throughout all of the Twilight Saga, but really in Breaking Dawn, we start to see the use of venom, and it kind of plays on the idea that Reneesme doesn't have any venom, and this whole concept around Venom and what this means for the storyline, what it means for Jacob, what it means for the pack, and all these different elements here. But also it's kind of relevant to the design and coloring of tonight's drink of the episode, which is from Cocktails and Screams. So thank you again so much to Cocktails and Screams for having us come out. If you order the drink at the bar, you're going to ask for the Madame Leota. In our case, again, we're calling it Venom because when you talk about the look of this is what we've got. We have gin, white cranberry juice, triple sec, elderflower, fresh lime juice, and it comes in this like glowing sphere. I was joking with Michelle that if we were to be doing Akratar, for example, we would probably call this the cauldron. Yeah, I think because you're going to dip into this and transition. And so then I was like, transition. We have this like glowing orb looking thing. You'll see it when we make it for our video for drink of the episode. But it does kind of have like a Venom look to it, a little bit of red to it. It's got these colors to it, and it had a great taste to it as well. So it has this glow type dry ice thing going on at the top as well. So we've got like a bunch of different elements there. And again, thank you to Cocktails and Screams for sponsoring this drink of the episode and having that made for us.
And let's talk about how the bartender handles the dry ice, because this isn't the only drink with dry ice. And she was such a pro about just handling the dry ice. And they just carry it in their hand.
Yeah, we were both like, what?
Wait, doesn't that burn you? She's like, no, just shake it a little bit. So, and it's fine. But it's really a cool looking drink. Again, like with the dry ice, it looks like smoke coming out of the little cauldron. And it's definitely Halloween-y since, even though we're wrapping up summer, Halloween is right around the corner. And it goes with our
Summerween.
And all the dark vibes that we got. So it's such a fun drink.
Yeah. All right, well, let's immerse ourselves back into Forks, Washington. So this episode, of course, we're exploring Breaking Dawn by Stephenie Meyer. We have a gigantic book right here for you. We have 2 massive films. We have all kinds of things coming up. So whether you're reading along with us or you're just here for the book/movie talk, either way, we're always glad that you're here. So what to expect in this episode is we're going to do a whole book summary, perspective of our reread, first read journeys, comparing the movie in. We're going to add in some pop culture, a little bit of facts, but more importantly, the big part of this episode is going to be our interview with Natalie from Nat Just Cakes. We're so excited to have her back on to talk about her favorite of the series, which is Breaking Dawn. She loved this book, so we're excited to talk to her about that. And then, of course, we'll wrap up with mystery Q&A. So we've got a jam-packed episode for you, and we're super excited to get started. So break out the plot summary.
Right.
Michelle?
So Breaking Dawn is the 4th book in this saga and final book. And this one's actually set up pretty differently. So we actually have 3 parts or 3 separate books within this one book. And 2 of them are from Bella's perspective and one's from Jacob's perspective. So I really like how there is a breakdown in that. So I'm going to summarize each book. So part 1 or book 1 is Bella. This is pre-vampire Bella. You have the wedding, the big wedding that she is mildly dreading the whole time. It's a very weird dynamic, and where she has this perspective on her wedding, and she understands how young she is and how that looks in the outside world. And then we have their honeymoon, where they go to a private island that is Esme's private island, which was gifted by Carlisle. And I was like, that's so cool. Here's a private island that is your gift for you. And then
mic drop.
And their honeymoon is quite interesting as they're going through it. Honestly, I felt so bad for Bella because it wasn't picturesque honeymoon, like, the honeymoon of people's dreams, just
No, it was
because
pretty dark,
it
honestly.
was,
Yeah.
because, obviously the honeymoon means they have sex, right? They consummate their marriage
Finally.
at that point. And
Yeah.
off page, we get conversation before, conversation morning after. And Edward is just he's so sour. Like he just has
Mm-hmm.
such a negative attitude. And I understand, like, because she has bruises, because he is a lot stronger than her and she's just a frail human. And it just turns into a lot of sulking for multiple
Yeah.
weeks. So they,
And I'll be honest with you, Michelle, I'm really hoping that Midnight Sun kind of gives us some closure with this. And I know that Midnight Sun in 2020, so much longer after the series.
right.
And technically Breaking Dawn is like the ending and Midnight Sun is the prequel of Edward's perspective in Twilight. I'm like really hoping for us, because it's both of our first reads of Midnight Sun,
Yeah.
that we're going to get some Edward closure here, because the way that I struggled with Edward
These last
in the
two
last two
books,
books, especially, yeah,
the
yeah,
worst.
it's been a struggle.
He's so
Yeah,
toxic.
it's been rough.
And so, okay, so they do the deed. He sulks. They end up doing the nasty a couple more times after that. And then Bella realizes that she's pregnant. She's like, wait, she like literally does the math on her hands.
Canoodling.
And she
Yeah.
realizes she's pregnant. She's like, wait, I have a baby bump. And that's strange because I should be only like a couple of weeks, if anything. And this shouldn't be showing. So this like horrifies Edward. And Edward immediately goes into, let me fix the problem by telling you what to do. And this, I'm like, what? You're just gonna get rid of the baby? And she's just like shocked. Obviously, he's in shock too, but she's like, I don't have a voice right now, so I'm going to get someone who does have a voice for me.
Right.
And
which we all know who that's going to be.
So, yeah, the pregnancy is the big thing, right? It's physically dangerous to Bella because half vampire, growing rapidly. She comes back. They immediately go back to Forks because, they have to figure out, Carlisle has to figure out what to do, if it's safe, if it's not safe. And basically Bella and Rosalie are like, I don't care if it's not safe, we're going to keep the baby. And Bella's health just immediately just goes down, 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 because the baby is literally like leeching off of her. And this is where Jake comes in, because Jacob like learns of Bella's condition, because really it was assumed that Bella's sick. She contracted some sort of South American disease and she has to be quarantined. That's the story. And Jacob doesn't believe it.
Or Jacob thinks that she's turned.
Yeah, Jacob thinks he's turned. So he goes to the Cullen's house, be like, I need to see it for myself that she's turned.
Yeah.
And he realizes that she's pregnant because he wants to like kill Edward. Like he wants to like start a war. And then once he finds out that she's pregnant, he's like, no, we can't start a war. Like this isn't okay. And then that causes tension between Jacob and the pack, because Sam's like, no, this is an abomination. We got to kill it now. Like at first he was like, Bella made her choice. It's fine. Now that there's a baby involved, let's all kill the baby. That's basically what this book is about. Let's all kill the baby. And to summarize it in one sentence,
it's a little dark.
It's very, very dark.
Yeah, I mean, we are book club after dark, but for a Ya book, there's some darker elements here.
Right.
You may not have the on-page open door spice, but we've got a lot of other problems going on that are dark here for sure.
Especially the actual childbirth scene of her like having to be cut open and very, very graphic. I wasn't expecting how graphic it was. And then Edward having to literally stab her in the heart with venom and like inject her with venom in multiple areas just so she can quickly transform into a vampire. And that's how we end book 1 from Bella's perspective. So we go into part 2, which is told from Jacob's point of view. And I thought Jacob's point of view was interesting because we also, with Jacob's point of view, we get some of the pregnancy as well. We get really his struggle in realizing Sam's choice and how he assumes himself as alpha. And as alpha, he gets a little bestie Seth, which Seth is my like favorite part of the entire series.
I love him
because he's a puppy.
Isn't he the best?
He's just a little puppy. He's like, I did
adorable.
good, didn't I? I ran.
Yeah,
I ran this whole thing.
Well,
I did
and
the
what
perimeter.
I love too about the book I know we haven't started book versus movie, but particularly Jacob getting his own full part 2, I loved that as Breaking Dawn. Like, I thought that did break up the story well. I think it would have been cool if we had a Jacob or Edward perspective as one of these as well.
Right.
That would have been
I
nice.
honestly thought we were
just a good to have.
because it was 1, 2, 3. So I'm like, where's Edward's perspective? But it goes back to Bella.
This is fair.
Yeah.
But you would think, because you would think them being the 3 main protagonists, it would make more sense to have a Bella, Jacob, Edward perspective. And you could have easily told, well, I don't know. I think it would have been a struggle with part 3 to tell it from anyone else's but Bella's perspective because of what she's able to do. Well, you'll get to that. So keep going. Right. Keep telling us about part 2.
So Jacob gains Seth and then ultimately gains Leah as well. And I thought she was, because you're supposed to like not like Leah because she's a bitch, essentially. Yeah. But then you understand.
Justice for Leah.
You understand why she's like that. She literally has to live with like the love of her life being imprinted to someone else. And it's like being
justice for Leah,
being in his head, you, like I can't imagine. So she just wants freedom. Yeah. She doesn't want to be a part of it. She understands she's a burden, and she like pleads with Jacob, like, I promise I will not be a problem. I just want to be free. I want to have my own mind. You don't even have to know that I exist. I will be in human form. I will go find a yoga studio somewhere, and it'll be fine. Yeah. So I really liked seeing more of Leah. And obviously Seth. And then we have the birth scene with Jacob's perspective and how he imprints on Reneesme. I'm just like, what?
Yeah. It's described as thousands of cables like suddenly snapping into place.
Right. And then his whole universe shifts to gravitate towards her. And it ends that chapter with him meeting Reneesme and realizing the pull that he was feeling towards Bella has actually moved outside of Bella and is now Reneesme. And I'm like, that must have been so fucking confusing for him because like that is a newborn, not really newborn, but like, you know, technically newborn that is the size of a 3-month-old. It's just all weird. It is weird. So obviously, this leads into a conflict with the Cullens because that is a baby. And, you know, the wolves understand imprinting, but no one else really does. So.
But we also have like 800 pages to talk about that. And I feel like she set us up with this imprinting for hundreds of pages before this.
Right. A whole book.
I mean, this book is almost 800 pages. Yeah. So you're going to have to like really set the reader up to get away with something like this. I feel like you really have to like,
and I don't 100% feel like she got away with it.
To be able,
like, I honestly don't feel. I feel like just because it still rubs me. Like, I get what she says, it still rubs me the wrong way. So I don't.
But it makes sense because you get the closure of why he was always so drawn
obsessed
to
with Bella. Yeah,
Bella. Yeah. It really wasn't Bella.
No,
it was the egg inside of.
Does that mean he was? No, I guess he wouldn't have been born. No, never mind. Train of thought was like, you know how like my eggs were inside of my mom because when I was growing in my mom's belly and we're born with the amount of eggs that we have, technically wouldn't he have been drawn to Renee, but he wouldn't have known Renee. So that was my train of thought. But never mind.
Yes, I can see. If this were reversed and he were the same age as Edward, perhaps.
True.
That would be a thing. But since vampires don't imprint, they don't mate. They do bonded pairs, which she describes at the back of this book.
Yeah.
There's like a whole
and she
pair,
talked
like,
a lot about
section.
Bonded pair or mates in Eclipse too. I noticed that was mentioned a lot more. So it's like, you know, it's kind of like the fated mates essentially that you talked about earlier as we were discussing Twilight.
I think this like solidifies that. Like she was not the first because it's been in a bunch of other series before that, but I think as far as like having something that became a coded phrase, like a big phrase in the book talk community, which is fated mates and this idea of mates, I think Bella and Edward were definitely still fated mates.
Right.
Like that's just what they were. They just didn't call it that at the time.
Right. And I guess Jacob ultimately imprinting is kind of like the wolf version of fated mates. Like they have no control over it. Whoever decides that is your person and that is it. which then with book 2 ending with the imprinting, book 3 is Bella's perspective, and she's a vampire, and that kind of adds a unique dynamic because Bella, as a newborn vampire, is actually like really controlled. She's actually really good at being a vampire, and it pisses Jasper off because he still struggles with wanting to feed on humans, and like that's still a struggle for him. And it really, it's showing that being a vampire is what each person chooses it to be, not like you're not destined for a certain aspect. So she just kind of broke the mold with that, and it caused a lot of tension with Jasper. Obviously, Emma got a great kick out of it because he was placing bets on how long until Bella like loses it. And obviously when she does lose it, it's on Jacob because Jacob imprinted on Reneesme, and she has a lot of
and
words.
That quote, that's like the same the same quote from the book and the movie. But also too, like, you have to think there's this element of Bella that we always knew she didn't fit in the human world in her body.
Right.
She was always clumsy. She was super accident prone. This type of control she's kind of always had, meeting Edward, just all the different ways that she was more of adult than both of her parents, like her maturity, all these different elements that you kind of already saw get embodied and even more firmly developed as a vampire, which tracks.
Right.
I mean, this is true to everything else that we've seen from when somebody turns. And it also ties into the gift that she has as well. So it makes sense to me. Like, I get the thing with Jasper, but it also just, it makes sense why Bella is what she is as a turned vampire.
Right. And we also see that Reneesme is like growing at a very exponential rate, that she's like every day it's like she's growing crazy amount. And, before your eyes, she's like a year old, essentially. And this, you also get the lore of why Reneesme is a problem, because there was a time where people were turning infants and babies into vampires. And obviously when that happens, the infant baby is like stuck in that, like, they're cute,
age,
but they're stuck, meaning they don't have control, and they were just causing chaos. And so this is when the Volturi come in.
And it's a crime.
Right.
I mean, you're killing kids.
Exactly.
Like,
that's not what the Volturi was concerned about, obviously. The Volturi is concerned about like preserving their secrecy, right? And you can't do that with a bunch of like baby toddler vampires just, massacring people, because they, if you are a parent to a young child, when they want something, they want it, and they're going to get it, or they're going to scrape their freaking heads off. So that's, I mean, imagine that with teeth.
Yeah.
So they don't really have self-control at that point. And
and they're not going to be controlled either. Yeah.
So this is when the Volturi see it as a problem, and that's kind of where we see the climax of the story really happening, where the Cullens have to prepare for the Volturi coming to them to basically deliver justice in their perspective, which would be to kill all of them, including Reneesme. We get a gathering. The Cullens essentially gather all their friends and family from all around the world, which is really cool that, you have different tribes.
Well, and Alice and Jasper like split off.
Right.
Which this was one thing I wanted to mention. So we've had so far in this series, there's always a classic literature book that's mentioned. In this case, it's The Merchant of Venice by William Shakespeare is the one that Alice leaves a note in Bella's version of. And this is that moment where there's more to this than that. And there's a very specific reason why Stephenie Meyer picks The Merchant of Venice and what it kind of parallels to. But there's basically this storyline in Merchant of Venice. The protagonists, multiple ones of them, have this law, which is a transition for a pound of flesh. There's different characters that describe, shy away from who they are and disguise themselves. Portia disguises herself as a lawyer. There's clever loopholes put into this, and it's a thing about mercy versus justice. And in Breaking Dawn, you have the Volturi showing up that are also demanding a price, which is death. claiming Renesmee breaks this vampire law, and Alice is also the one who has these twists to avoid bloodshed. And so you have parallels here between Shakespeare and, again, just the way she did New Moon and the way she did with Eclipse, and even with Twilight, you have these different, very clear nods to classic literature. And she, again, mentions them by name in her work. So this is another example of Stephenie Meyer deliberately bringing in a piece of classic literature, and it was in the film and the book, but in the book as well, using a specific piece of classic literature where we see parallels in the stories.
Right. And you mentioned, like, with Alice and Jasper breaking off, like, that was a huge turning point because usually the Cullens are like one united front, and they everyone except Bella is perceiving it as like a betrayal, right? She must have left because there's nowhere Jasper is getting out alive, and Bella, like, understands that she will protect Jasper at all costs. So, but Bella ultimately realizes, like, no, she has a plan because of her note, and then she realizes that there's also a backup plan with South America. Bella works with a guy to get, like, some fake passports and birth certificates for Jacob and for Renesmee so they can escape if things turn south. And I thought there was a lot of buildup to this. It was very slow buildup to this ending, this battle. And I realized just because she was trying to pull a lot of, like, global entities together, and she had to make it make sense. Like, some random people can't just pop up. They have to have, like, a backstory and how they're related to Carlisle and what they contribute to the story. And, you know, they have a whole month. So, like, 200 pages took up that 1 month. And I was just like, it was going.
It's a lot.
There was a lot of information packed in that. And then we get to the battle scene. And what Carlisle and the Cullens are hoping.
I would rather call it a confrontation in the book.
Right. Yes, there was even
a confrontation
battle. We stood there and stared at each other, and we talked a lot
and commented.
So yeah, that was.
Bella got to use her shield.
Sure, and I'm like, where's the fucking fight? Like, I'm just like, the whole time I'm like, okay, usually, like, we come to a resolution. There has to be at least a little bit of a fight. And they're like, no, wait, and then, you know, whatever. No action whatsoever. And I was just like, I get it. The way Stephenie Meyer set it up is the Cullens are presenting their side, which is Renesmee is not an abomination. She isn't. She is biologically Edward's kid, meaning they broke no law. And they had to have all of these witnesses to say, yes, I agree, because she grows and she's really smart and she has control. She doesn't even have venom and all those things. And Aro is like, yes, interesting. Yes, good point. Yes, interesting. And it's just like, oh my, okay. And he's like, let me see the child and be all creepy and all that. Yeah. And then his brother or whatever, Caius, is like, burn them all the entire time. So you have, like, one is like, I kind of want to see reason, but only if it, like, benefits me. And the other one's like, no reason, burn them. And then you have the third brother who's just like, I don't care.
I'm bored of this.
I see no problem. Let's just go.
Yeah. Can we just go home? Like,
please.
He's like a homebody.
I just need to brush my long golden locks and be okay with it. So, and ultimately then Alice, like, appears out of nowhere with a hybrid vampire who is 150 years old that was from the Amazon, and to prove, like, hey, this is actually, like, a vampire half vampire that you never knew existed because he has control. So clearly that means she can have control. And then that's that. The end.
Yeah. And even, like, the end chapters are, it's really quick.
It's like confrontation.
It ends done. It ends, like, very abruptly. Yes. And they're just, like, wrapped up super fast. And you're like,
usually after, like, these sagas or trilogies, there's usually, like, an epilogue chapter where it's, like, in the future. Like, I'm thinking, like, Hunger Games, right? There's an epilogue at the end of the final book.
Yeah.
But, like, where, you know, how their life is after their main event. So I anticipated that to happen. But then when I move. It's just at the end. I'm like, okay. And then it gives like the list of the vampires. I'm like,
I forgot
what
how
the
abrupt it was. I was like, oh,
we're just
okay.
done. We
It's okay. So let's talk about your first read. You kind of got into it a little bit here, but like your first read versus reread, because I have some thoughts.
Okay, so
But
as a first read, I didn't hate this as much as Eclipse, for solely
okay,
for the perspective of Jacob. If it was from Bella's
right.
perspective the entire
It was a
time,
game changer.
I would have probably been upset, just because the whole Bella and Edward, Bella doesn't have a voice. Bella has to hide behind Rosalie to have a voice, and Edward
Yep.
really
It's problematic.
taking away her voice, but for her own good because he knows best. I'm just like, okay,
We're over this.
yeah, I'm done. I'm done with this whole.
Yeah, we're over her agency. Yeah.
But, and then,
Agree.
so having Jacob's perspective, I actually really enjoyed. And even though at the very beginning, Jacob was like also playing into like the toxic behavior, because Edward was like, hey, so if you convince her to not have this
He
baby.
has been, though.
Right. But the whole like, if you convince her to not have this baby, she can have puppies with you. I'm like, wait a minute. You can't decide any of this. What is going on?
No.
And Jacob's like, I don't think that's gonna work, but I'm gonna shoot my shot anyways. I'm like,
dark.
So yeah, that whole part, I was just like, this is really icky. I don't like this.
Yeah.
But then him being an alpha, I was kind of over like his broodiness. Honestly, like I understood, like
okay,
he was, upset. The
like before he broke off, like when he was with Sam?
No.
Or like when he broke off?
When he broke off. When he was alpha, he was still like,
okay,
she's having this stinking baby.
Yeah.
And I have to be around. And I'm just always around. And it sucks being around, but I'm always going to be around. And then Leah is like the whole time because she hates the vampires. And Seth's he's just happy. Everyone just needs to be more like Seth. I appreciate Seth.
Agree.
And then the ending, I just thought there was too much buildup and like there was like nothing in the end. Because, okay, so this is...
I was just going to ask you.
And I'm just like thinking...
Because you've seen the movie. So
yeah,
it's like,
I saw the movie.
When you read the book, were you like underwhelmed?
Yes. I was like, wait, I thought there was the fight scene and then we come back and it's Alice's vision. There was no Alice's vision in the end. Like there was no like Alice being touched by Aro and Aro seeing what's going to turn out and then they leave. I'm like, wait, this is completely different. Like Alice, and ultimately Alice does turn the tide of like the battle, but they did it in such a different way. And I honestly think they did that change in the movie because, okay, I think it's 2012. What movies were coming out this time? Lots of superhero movies. Like Marvel was huge at this time. Transformers was big. So a lot of these big fight scenes, and they needed something because there was literally nothing. If they were just all standing in a field and like... It's
so underwhelming. It
is.
Yeah.
And like
visually,
Bella...
it's so underwhelming. It was underwhelming reading it. I was like, okay, I guess that works.
Right.
Like, I guess Arrow sees it now and it works. But like, yeah, it just... Again, I'll be honest, I forgot on a reread like how boring the ending was. And I was like, wait a minute. Hold on. Okay, when does Alice's thing happen? Wait. Because it doesn't happen.
No.
That's not a thing in the book. It doesn't happen at all.
I wish it did.
And by the way, what we're talking about is the end of Breaking Dawn Part 2, the second movie, is Alice's vision is this entire fight scene where, and I remember seeing the trailer for this also, and like Carlisle dies, like all of them die. Seth dies, like a bunch of them die in this like big fight scene and get ripped apart, and Jane dies, and like this whole thing. And it's Alice showing Arrow the future should he choose to pursue a fight with them, and that they would lose. And that's like the whole reason she waited was part of that, but also to bring this other, birthed vampire. But part of it was also like she wanted to show Arrow this future so he could see it and see the decision he was about to make and what that would be, which to me is like, again, very rare that a movie outdoes the book. And this example, just like Eclipse for me, Breaking Dawn Part 2, that twist made it better than the book.
I agree.
In my opinion.
I agree. Breaking Dawn...
For that specific thing.
Right. And I honestly... Like, this book is thick.
There were places it missed the mark. Yeah.
Like, this book is thick. I don't think there's enough content in here for this to be 2 full movies. Because part 1 is pretty slow.
No.
Like, this is not...
Agree.
Like, it's like when they broke up Mockingjay.
Agree.
And they broke it into 2 books. I'm like,
yes.
Mockingjay is not that big of a book. And you're going to break it up into 2? No, there's not enough content here. Because there's a lot of back and forth. There's a lot of, I'm going to tell a story without adding a whole lot of detail. So... yeah.
Well, and then they just kind of cut Jacob short in Breaking Dawn parts 1 and 2.
They
didn't even give the wolves, like, right, in the book.
Yeah.
But, like, in the movies, he gets glazed over. Mm-hmm. And so does, like, the story of Seth. So does the whole thing. You really don't, I'm over here saying justice for Leah, but that's, like, a book perspective. Right. Because in the movies, you really don't feel for her that much. You get a couple little instances, but only the fan base who has read the books will really feel for Leah. Right. Otherwise, you're watching it and you're like, she had like a little...
She had a crush on Sam.
Heartbreak in high school or whatever. Yeah, like you don't get that they were like engaged, like that they were together for years. You don't get the full understanding. He's like, oh, yeah, I feel really bad about what I did to Leah. But, like, you don't really understand, like, what he did to Leah. Right. And also that Emily is her cousin.
Right. And honestly, with the wolves, someone is someone else's cousin. Like, it's just someone else. Yeah, someone's cousin, someone's niece. You're just all kind of related. And I understand, like, that's very, I guess, tribal because they're small units, right? So people are going to know someone in some sort of way or be related to someone in some sort of way. But I was just like, everyone's so freaking related and they're from other tribes too. And they're still related. I'm like, what is going on here?
Yeah. But the book definitely focused on that more.
Right.
That, like, the movies don't really mention
any of
those aspects.
No.
And it's probably because it's not right to do that.
Right.
Like, we should stay far away from that line of thinking.
Right.
And, yeah.
And in the book.
Let's not. And the directors are like, the screenplay writers are like, absolutely not. We're not putting that in there.
Right. That would have been.
But the book definitely talks about that. Yeah. Been
There's a lot of, there were a lot of things that were kind of problematic in here that if it was written in this day and age, it probably would have been canceled, to be honest. Too many.
Or it would have been taken out, which is what happened in the movies. Yeah.
Right.
All that controllingness of Edward being of his time, which was totally true
of
that time, but right. I mean, the imprinting on children, again, I think that they did it. They really, really emphasized so many times that it's like
in the book
a lifeline of them being connected together. But the way that this also gives, in the book, but the way it also gives grooming is undeniable.
A little bit.
You can't. It's just like what Reneesme just doesn't have any autonomy now. The girl just came in the world.
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't get to choose who she's gonna be with. Like, this is just so problematic.
Right, and she's not.
But we're gonna choose to look beyond it because it's a paranormal situation. And she wouldn't be happier with anybody else. And Jacob is the very best thing that could ever happen to her.
So says the male.
And that is why this works out.
So says the man. The man is the one that's saying, I'm the one that would work best for you, and you don't get a choice from birth. So.
Yeah, why doesn't the girl imprint? Or isn't this reversed? But I guess it is, because Leah could imprint too, but she doesn't, which is also problematic. Like, why don't we find out who Leah imprints on? Right. Give one of these ladies an imprint choice. And
it also mentions I did think that Leah can't have children, and that she, like, imprinting for her is also, like, a little bit questionable, because the whole purpose of imprinting and, like, is ultimately to generate, like, better pedigree for the wolves, right? And since she's frozen in her time, she cannot reproduce. So there's even a question of whether she should imprint, or she is able to imprint, because she biologically cannot reproduce as a wolf. Which I'm like, why can't she?
And so what is this also parallel to?
Like, why can't she?
Female vampires can't reproduce either.
Exactly.
What are we doing here, Stephenie?
Why aren't they allowed
questions about this.
Why can't she have a pup?
Yeah.
Why can she not be a strong, independent woman and have a family? Mm-hmm. Problematic.
Why can't Reneesme?
Exactly.
Why can't she make some decisions for herself?
Why can't
Reneesme?
Rosalie? Okay, so this is like,
why can't Esme? This is the thing, is like, none of these women, Resme's a baby, but I'm just saying, nobody has.
For 6
Bella
years,
had the most autonomy.
She's a baby for 7 years. At 7 years, she'll be full grown, and then she'll stop, like, aging or whatever. So at that point, if she has a baby with Jacob, that means it's a wolf, vampire, human. What the fuck is that gonna look
Yes.
like? Like that is
I don't
that
know.
is
Probably somehow
genetically
beautiful
mutation.
and wolfy or
No,
something.
I'm picturing like one of those like Pomeranians
God.
with like an underbite, like the jaw's not even
Oh
right.
my goodness.
It's too many
Wow.
genes.
Like the purple minion.
Yeah, yes, basically the purple minion. There's too much. That's not,
Oh my
and maybe that's why
gosh.
we don't get that epilogue, because she's just like, man, I can't. I don't know. That's gonna come out.
And this is why some stories are best preserved in time, Michelle. This is a product of its time. So let's get into this. Let's talk about the book versus movie comparison, because now we kind of gave, like, for me as a reread, I was talking to a friend of mine and she's like, oh, I read them every couple years, like to go back on that journey. I don't think that's going to be for
I
me.
will-
And maybe that'll change when I read
No.
Midnight Sun. I just can't see a need to go back after this one. Also, my TBR hates me. There's no
Right,
way.
it's-
I just don't have the time to go back and do all this again. It's like when I said I would read Hunger Games again, like every other year, and I haven't.
No.
Or I've said I would read, Harry Potter again and all these other ones.
I don't
think
like
I'll
rereading.
read Harry Potter as a story to my son later.
Yeah, for sure.
But I don't know that. I think, I like that the movies are there. I'll rewatch the movies all day.
Right.
I'm cool with having it on in the background and cleaning my house or whatever. But it's something I can like have on in the background and have, friends over and be, having a glass of wine and not really paying attention to it. And it's
Right.
just kind of running there. Or it's a comfort. You just put it on when you're, sick and you want to vegetate or whatever it
Right.
is. You're just a comfort vibe. I will say that the soundtracks, especially to the first two movies, are so good. The thing I hated about Breaking Dawn's parts 1 and 2 is that they added in this bullshit like music, and anyone, if it was, I can't do
You
it.
mean you don't like the wedding
like-
song? Is that not your favorite song?
Yeah,
played for,
dude,
like,
all the
ever?
No. That song is
Okay,
fine.
okay.
No. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like the little sound effects that they added as
Okay.
like a score to each of the movies. They didn't have that in the first two movies. They had a little bit in Eclipse, but then parts 1 and 2 just like went off the rails with this like score music. And instead of incorporating like music of the time and kind of doing the Stephenie Meyer playlist, how she's like really, she loved Muse and Interpol and all these bands of that time. They had a couple little songs, but they mostly try to create their own like original scores.
Yeah.
And for me, it just didn't work. I felt like the grittiness of the first two films got taken away. They got so much budget by the time they got to these two movies that they just like went balls to the wall with extra shit that actually took away from the original storytelling.
Right.
In my
And just
personal
because
opinion.
you have more money,
it just got overdone.
right,
Yeah.
doesn't mean you have to do things extra. Like, I feel like when
Mm-hmm.
you know,
And then also omit parts of the story still. It's like, what?
we had two whole
you have all
parts.
this extra money.
We had like almost like what, 4 hours of movie, and you couldn't fit at least some of
Mhm.
more of it in there. There was so much emphasis on the wedding,
right.
and especially with like the hype.
So
right?
much.
The wedding is like
Oh, yeah.
2 chapters.
Which I won't lie, I was really excited about the wedding too.
yeah,
The way that everybody was waiting to find out, People Magazine was like really excited to talk about this wedding dress. It was a big fucking deal. Like people were waiting. Michelle, this was a big deal. When Caroline Herrera was like, was the designer, which was a huge wedding dress designer at this time. The dress, by the way, stunning.
hmm
In the movie, it is stunning. It's a beautiful dress. I loved the dress, but they didn't reveal it. They kept it secret this entire time until the movie actually came out. Like there were like no cameras on set, and even at this time, it's not like you had like a iPhone that you were gonna like snap a quick picture of
it was
this.
2012.
You could,
Yeah,
yeah, but it wasn't
Or
like it
2011.
is today, where information was so like transferable.
Right.
But they definitely couldn't have their phones on set. Like they had to try to keep this under wraps. It was a big deal.
Right.
But anyway, the big differences between book versus movie. Primarily, what we talked about already is the book is divided into 3 sections, which was Bella, Jacob, Bella.
Mhm.
3 different storylines, and they all kind of end at different points that catapult the story somewhere else. The movie, on the other hand, is only split into 2 parts. You have Breaking Dawn Part 1, Breaking Dawn Part 2. Immediate ending, which has been redone so many times of different reels, funny reels, things that come up again for Breaking Dawn Part 1 is Bella after she gets injected in the heart. And first of all, Breaking Dawn Part 1 is like horrific to watch. Kristen Stewart's transformation in that, her weight loss, it's horrifying. As it should be. It's described this way in the book.
Right.
So, yes, but also like to watch it back, it's truly like I like the wedding scene. And then I'm like, do I really need to watch all of this again? It's probably why like New Moon for me. Yeah. The whole thing is like, it's probably truly for me why New Moon is like one of my favorites to rewatch on a rewatch thing. I'll watch it if I'm watching like the whole thing and watching a marathon, right? But as far as this goes, this was a tougher one. I liked Breaking Dawn Part 2 better as just from a visual aspect because that was just rough. But you see her full honeymoon, pregnancy, transformation, and that's where Breaking Dawn Part 1 ends. And then Breaking Dawn Part 2 is Bella as this vampire. We see CGI Reneesme. We have the Volturi, air quotes, conflict.
The CGI Reneesme. I'm sorry. We had a big budget, right? And think about, I was like, I was like, okay, it's the time period, right? But like, no, this is 2012. We have Transformers, crazy CGI and Transformers at the time. We have all these Marvel movies that are just so CGI centered, and we couldn't fucking make her look not creepy. Baby. Yeah. One baby. Like, I get it. Maybe it's hard to have like multiple actresses, like little actresses looking the same because, she's growing at such a rapid pace. But we like Disney does a better job at the theme parks with a doll, and we'll just like plant the face on it, like the Frozen ride. We'll just put the random face on it, and it's fine. Little creepy, not demonic, because she's not supposed to look demonic, but she does. And I'm like,
it was a bit much. Yep.
And
they also did a lot of the female vampire actresses dirty with the wigs.
Yes,
like did them dirty. The wigs were like painfully obvious, not the best.
And we have the big budget. And we couldn't do better. Yeah. Where was the money going? Who was getting this money?
Also, Jacob got robbed. Just the wolves in general, their story, the whole series, I will say. They had such a larger play in the overall aspect of the whole story, whereas I feel like the writers for the screenplay and all that really just wanted it to be the Bella Edward, Kristen Stewart, Robert Pattinson show.
Right. And that was when they were dating too.
So much less.
Right. That was when they were together. So they were focusing that. But we missed the whole Jacob, after he comes back from the pack and they're trying to like bring him back. Right. He's like, no, like Sam wants you back. And he literally like transforms like as he's walking out of the Cullens, and then he has to transform back into a human. And he's like literally like butt naked, just talking to some people, talking to the other wolves. We're just missing that part. And which is like, it's funny. Oh, yeah. He's just like, I'm going to play alpha, but here's my ding dong, and like Leah has to like turn. She's like, I'm going to go that way. Yeah. So like, it would have been funny. And there was like so many other aspects of the wolves, just like they played such a big part. Like, and if they were trying to actually do the whole Team Edward, Team Jacob thing, like they should have got an equal part. But I think because
I feel like if they remade it now, I think they would do that. I think they would incorporate a lot more of the wolves' perspectives. Right. And even more with this, you kind of get Sam and Leah, but not really, because you don't hear them. You don't really get to hear them talk. You get a little bit, but it just really isn't the same amount that you get in the book. And that's traditionally the case, right? Most of the books, when they're adapted to film, there's a lot that gets cut. And unfortunately, the biggest pieces that gets cut throughout that we've seen has been a lot of the dialogue for the wolves and their backstory and things like that. So, Alice's entire backstory never even gets told. Nope. So there's just parts of it where we miss this in the films. I think that the key pieces from the movie to the books that were really the changes were just the way that the overall story itself was still very, very similar, but that obvious big one is the Alice change. That final battle scene, again, it makes the film for me, and I am glad that they added it. that was something I really enjoyed. I don't know about you.
Yeah,
What
no,
were your
I
thoughts?
definitely. I mean, the end of this book, like I told you, I was like flipping, like it just says the end. What do you mean it's the end? Like, where's that whole battle? There's so much lead up
Hmm.
to like there's going to be a fight, and there was no fight
Hmm.
whatsoever. One vampire
Yeah.
dies, and then they like restrain two other like her sisters so they don't cause a fight, which and then Bella has
Yeah.
their shields, which no one else can see. So obviously, like visually, how do you do that? We just have a force field and
Which was good. I thought they did a pretty good with the CGI for Bella's force
right,
field. I thought they did fairly good with that.
right.
It didn't look terrible.
No, but if that's
It
odd,
worked.
that's all. If that's all she
Yeah.
had, and there was nothing else, then it's like, okay, what are you doing? You just have a shield, and that's it. So they had to
And
include
also, we
that.
spent this much of the book, like this massive part of the book, going to find quote unquote witnesses. And it just like, I don't know, this twist just didn't,
It did
there
it.
was no twist in the book. It just fell flat.
Yeah,
It just
I
didn't.
agree.
And yeah, it didn't work. I
The
preferred,
movie version, yeah,
yeah,
same.
yeah,
I agree.
yeah.
And then the end, I feel like the movie also gives a little bit. There's a little bit more of a resolution afterwards because you get like that final
Hmm.
end picture where Bella, Jacob,
Yeah.
Renesmee, and Edward are all like looking over the river or the lake or whatever. And you kind of get the nice. But in the book, it's like they're just walking
Yeah.
away from the field and that's it. Done. They don't even make it home yet.
Right. And you don't get the closure, no, and you don't get the closure of Jacob and
Hmm.
Renesmee, because that's another thing that they kind of helped with this with Jacob and Renesmee is they actually show her as an adult with Jacob
Hmm.
briefly in the movie,
Hmm.
and that's gives you an extra bit of closure for what they just did in this movie of having him imprint on a child. They were like, no, but wait, there's more.
Wait.
She's an adult.
Right.
Look, she's an adult.
And an
They had to like
epilogue.
visually kind of get past
An
that.
epilogue would have been important here. Give that. Like that.
Hmm.
That just
From Jacob's perspective,
right.
or Renesmee's
Right.
as an adult. Renesmee as an adult epilogue would have been incredible
Right.
and should have
It
happened.
should have.
Her perspective would have been like a game changer that would have really helped the story now.
And seeing like
And
her
I think if it came out
power.
now, I think you would have to
Right.
add something like that.
Absolutely.
You'd need to give some more closure somewhere in here that would make this work.
Not just
And maybe, again, maybe Midnight Sun is going to help us with some of that. I don't think that changes imprinting for me because it's just Edward's perspective of Twilight.
and
I
Edward
don't
doesn't
see that
understand it
changing that.
either. So
Yeah, so I don't think we're gonna get it, but I do think the movies, what they did correctly, the wedding was great, the honeymoon, they spent the money, they went out to Rio, like they shot that really well. They conveyed parts of it. I think they could have done better with certain things of prolonging how distant Bella felt, and I don't know if that goes down to acting, but there was just parts of it. Yeah, he was distant. I kind of got the vibe of that, but I wish that he had said more instead of just trying to show that visually of them like bouncing around an island and her trying to catch up or whatever, and then like playing chess and stuff, which was a nod to the book cover, in the film. That's great, but I wish they would have like kind of talked about it more.
right.
But they did great with the visual aspects of it.
Maybe that's where all the
Volturi
budget
casting was good. Well, the Volturi casting was amazing. I thought they did really well with
I did
that.
too.
That worked. And the only other thing that was crazy, which I kind of touched on this a little bit, but Breaking Dawn Part 1, the transformation of Kristen Stewart was really significant. And you can really tell in the film how much weight she lost for the movie, and just the visual elements of that full transformation is definitely put very well on display in Part 1.
I will say, like, as a read now, when Bella was saying bye essentially to Renesmee and said, listen, if I tell you to run, you run. I was like, okay, this is actually sad because like I'm a mom, so I'm like picturing like,
Yeah.
okay, that would be heartbreaking. So that actually like hit hard for me. And I guess as a first read now, I would feel that more just because I relate to that.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily me just being older.
And
That's
even
just
the
me being a mom.
pregnancy.
Yeah. I was like, oh, yeah. And like me being pregnant right now, I'm like, holy, I don't want this thing cut out of me. I don't want any of that. But like, that's essentially like they had to do a C-section to her to like,
Right.
on a
But
scalpel,
even protectiveness that Bella feels towards her unborn child.
Right.
You know, you being pregnant, you have to probably have an interesting take on
Which
that as well.
Right, that's why I was like, who the fuck are you, Edward? Who are you going to tell her? How are you going to tell her that she can get rid of the baby? It's like, no, I'm sorry. You had your hour contribution. I'm sorry. Or however long it took you.
That is very generous.
Well, I don't know. Like, I don't know the anatomy. Like, how, like, I'm sorry. And, like, we talked about this last episode, but, like, that probably was really uncomfortable. I'm glad she got it when she was a vampire, but I'm sorry. That was probably so uncomfortable. He's cold. You're warm.
The ice pick of what?
It's being rammed by an icicle. That's what she is being.
Well,
and I'm just like,
we all have our things we like.
Death? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That was on like what? Remember that show?
Close your ears, people.
Remember that show in the early 2000s? It was like 1,000 Ways to Die or something like that. It was like these crazy ways.
Yep.
And usually, and most of them were like sexual in some sort of way. So that
I was just talking about that show the other day.
So that would have been.
This wasn't a sexual way. This guy dies. He's a Buffalo Bills fan, and he like freezes on the bleachers or whatever. Like one of his friends thinks he took him, and like the other friend thinks he took him because they were all like shirtless, you know, rooting for the Bills, and he like fell asleep and like hypothermia, and that was 1,000 Ways to Die. They like left him in the stands without a shirt.
He couldn't walk.
Yeah,
he couldn't go somewhere and get a.
He was drunk.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was intoxicated.
Okay, that is a key.
Yeah, he
that
was
is
like heavily intoxicated.
Yeah. Okay.
Key
Checks out.
information, piece of information. I forgot to add that. Yeah.
The
reason I thought of that one was because we're talking about freezing cold situations that could kill you. Very different one, but
very different. A little different situation, but still, like I don't know that whole thing. And you know, oh wait, I was in the water for a little bit, so obviously it's fine.
Also, may he rest in peace, because that was a real person, which is terrible.
Yeah, that is. I'm sorry. We're not
sorry for Mr. Bill's fan. That was
Frozen.
Awful.
Yes.
And I'm sorry.
Terrible.
There, 1,000 Ways to Die.
R.I.P.
That show is.
Yeah. Millennial TV was unhinged. Like Millennial TV was just God. Like, think of like all the crazy TV shows we had, like Catfish, like that show where like they just found people being fake on the internet and like they confronted them in person. Like, you're dating this 15-year-old, but really it's like some 29-year-old dude, you know, living out of a trailer. And it's just like unhinged.
That show went for a long time.
It did. Jersey Shore, you know, reality TV. That was just Millennial TV was just, it was a time. It was is it My Strange Obsessions?
There's a new documentary about Biggest Loser that's coming out about that weight loss show.
Oh yeah.
There's like a documentary coming out about that.
I forgot about that show. And they had a bunch of just like game shows that were just really stupid.
Yeah.
You know, there's the birth of American Idol. Anyways, Millennial TV, crazy time. Back to Edward's
which leads
icicle.
us into pop culture. Yeah, but timing. Pop culture. So Breaking Dawn Part 1 gets released in November of 2011. And 1 year later, in November of 2012, Breaking Dawn gets released. And when I explain to you the hype surrounding this at this point, it's cataclysmic, okay? They are dating in real life.
For Part 1.
Kristen Stewart and Robert Pattinson cannot get away from this whole situation. Well, yeah, for Part 1. And then we all know what happened. It didn't all work out, obviously. They're not together anymore. Spoiler warning. There was some drama. But at this time, we kind of have the end of an era. We have Hunger Games is getting going. Harry Potter's wrapping up. Harry Potter Part 2, Deathly Hallows Part 2 ends in 2011. So we get the final conclusion of that whole epic series and films. Superhero movies, like you were saying before. Thor comes out, which was freaking massive success. It's still one. Thor is one of my favorite in the Marvel.
The Hemsworths,
chef's kiss,
are just gorgeous people.
There's nothing, right? What's not to like?
No, I mean,
they were just
hand chosen.
They were a blessing to us.
Yes,
yeah,
just God of Thunder.
There was a lot of thought
Thank
put
you,
into
sir, for your service.
Thank you. And Captain America, which was also amazing, the very first Avenger. That movie was fantastic. And this is a timeline of kind of where we're at. We also have The Immortals that comes out, mythical action fantasy, Henry Cavill, what's
Paranormal Activity.
We have
remember that whole franchise?
Yes.
That was a wild franchise.
Oh my gosh.
Too. Like the whole like
Yeah.
spooky
Paranormal Activity was a big one.
Yeah. So Paranormal Activity 3,
Yes.
the third movie in that whole thing, came out at the same time.
Yeah.
Moneyball.
Breaking Dawn Part 1 basically crushes it when it comes out. $138 million in its opening. It opened to that domestically, and it just really kind of knocked everything out of the park. Is this surprising? No. It's the fourth movie of a 5-film, multi-book phenomena. This was gigantic. Everybody loved this. This is kind of where you see the piggybacking happening with Hunger Games, Divergent. We kind of go into dystopian era after this time frame, kind of get away from the vampire thing. But it did open the doors for Vampire Diaries, Teen Wolf, a bunch of other television series that kind of played off of this success of this. But then part 2 comes out. We have our first Avengers movie coming out in May of 2012 after Thor and Superman. March of 2012, so same year as Breaking Dawn Part 2, right after we have Harry Potter, right after the last film in the Harry Potter franchise, right after we have the Breaking Dawn Part 2 in November. And this was like a good 2-year period of films, okay? Because Hunger Games, the first movie, which was Jennifer Lawrence, Chef's Kiss, so good, couldn't have been cast better as Katniss in March of 2012.
She is Katniss.
So we have Katniss Everdeen on the screen. Absolutely.
And that
amazing
book,
yeah, dystopia that really just takes off.
That movie, I have rarely seen a movie so close to the book. There are very few liberties that they took. That they're just so close. I just love that series.
And why do you think that is?
Because the book.
I think it's because of Twilight. I think it's from Twilight and Harry Potter. People were pissed about the films and what they did to the books. Harry Potter got robbed too, which I'm very excited to see the HBO series and what they're going to end up doing, going that route, because, they're going to have the time to truly dedicate. Yeah. They're going to have really have time to, well, Ron and Hermione were also prefects. We just glazed right over that. Nobody even mentions that in the films. Not a thing. There's too many things to count. But anyway, so I think when the Hunger Games came out, I'm not hungry, guys. I don't know what happened there. When the Hunger Games came out, this was to the book, like spot on. So good. And then we have Dark Knight Rises, which concludes Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy. So we have all these big, massive trilogies that are coming out. Disney starts with Wreck-It Ralph, which was a big shift for them, something totally new and different that they hadn't done yet. We have Rise of the Guardians, which is another just big things that are just going on in the world of film at this time. One major flop was Cloud Atlas. And I remember this having this like huge following behind it. They're like, this is going to be this huge deal. And Cloud Atlas was absolutely terrible. It was really, really bad. It was not good.
Right.
Breaking Dawn Part 2 was the second largest of the franchise in terms of grossing. And it did very well overall, but New Moon and Breaking Dawn were the top 2 of the whole franchise to produce the most in terms of sales. But these were all part of this massive shift of what's going on. And what are we listening to in this era? In 2011, we're listening to Adele, Lady Gaga, Katy Perry, Bruno Mars, LMFAO, okay? I remember LMFAO with a Party Rock album.
Party Rock.
And if you don't know who LMFAO is, and you... yeah, exactly.
That was
and Nicki Minaj's Super Bass. Okay, look, these were big.
I'm sorry, like, when this song came out, like, you had to know the entire Super Bass rap. Like, that was a thing. Like, that was a goal. Like, you would listen to it on repeat. And it was a flex. If the song comes on and you can do it without messing up, that was just a flex. So that song,
it was.
I love that era of Nicki Minaj. She would, like, her whole Barbie era, so good. The 2011, 2012.
I like the Pink Panther era too.
Right.
But
well, like, this era of music is just so, like,
it was fun.
Right. We're going to live for now. And we're probably going to die soon because we're all on drugs or doing something. And we're just going to have a good time. We had a lot of
deployments happening.
Okay, that's a whole different... I was a junior in high school. I was not thinking that. at
That's
that
true.
point in time.
Oh, right.
I was like,
Yeah, I was
let
in
me
the
get
workforce,
college
so
applications and what is
yeah.
my boyfriend doing, and I'm going to just kind of bop around a little bit. So two different
Okay. Well,
two
we were
different
both
lives.
living at different times. Yes, very, very, very much so.
Right. And then 2012 we have
2012. Tell us about it, Michelle.
Call Me
Yeah.
Maybe. When this song came, oh my god, like everyone, Carly Rae Jepsen's Calling Me Maybe was so viral. It was just crazy.
This is so the Marines did a video deployed singing Call Me
I remember
Maybe.
that, yeah.
And it was huge.
And that was
this
on
was like one of the
YouTube.
largest
Yeah.
viral videos ever. Oh yeah. It was this like massively like viral video.
You have these
of
Marines,
these Marine Corps
and there's
guys
like, Call Me Maybe,
dancing and singing. Yeah.
That was such a fun time. And then
it was amazing.
Taylor Swift, her Red album, which is really, you see a shift of
I love
her.
that album.
It was really good. You see the shift from country to pure pop. Like this is her first like pure pop album. Very, very good.
On vinyl.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
And One Direction is, becoming a thing. We're getting like big boy bands at this time. And really with Twilight, the Christina Perry
Styles,
1,000 Years, that song was very big. Bruno Mars was very big during this time. He still is big just because he's like pure raw talent. You mentioned Harry Styles. Harry Styles is born out of One Direction. Now like they broke up.
Yep.
Oh, a couple of years back. I can't remember if it was pre-COVID.
We had Zayn. Yeah. Who else?
Al Horan. He's still making music. One of them died recently. So that's really sad.
That was a tragic event.
That's really sad.
Yep. And so we had celebrity and fan culture. Of course, we talked about this already. Kristen Stewart and Robert Pattinson, they had a huge cheating scandal surrounded by Kristen being involved with her director of Snow White and the Huntsman.
Yikes.
This was a huge deal at this time. Yes. And the way that there is still fandom out there, which is really weird too. It kind of reminds me of the Justin Bieber, Selena Gomez
people are still
situation
obsessed with them.
where people are still obsessed with them getting together, and it's like, dude,
they're both
like
married. Yeah, they're both living their own lives.
Almost married. Selena's almost married, and like he's married with a child. Like, what are we doing, folks? Like, same with Kristen and Robert. They've moved on very comfortably in their lives.
He's
and
Batman
it's time
now.
for everyone to just let
him be Batman.
Yeah, let that ship sail. Everybody just chill. So yeah, it was a really tough blow for the fandom to see them break up. It was a whole huge thing. They kind of went underground after that whole thing. It was bad.
Much.
It was definitely massive.
Yeah.
No, not publicly like that anymore. And then this is also kind of when Tumblr culture comes around, which we don't really hear about Tumblr very much anymore. But at the time, this was a really big deal, and it was kind of the first. You had deviant art. You had all these different
it's like threads now,
underground
or like
art.
Reddit.
Yeah,
it was just
threads.
own...
It's kind of all combined into pre-Reddit. This is like you had Reddit though, but yeah, this was like its own kind of thing at the time. And then obviously Team Edward versus Team Jacob gets cemented into pop culture. We had shifts in all of our types of phones. There's a lot of technological shifts that happens at this time. And we just have a lot of things that come out of this Twilight era in particular. And it just, I think there's a massive shift in Divergent and in Hunger Games and all these things because they become these power female dominated fandoms. And I think the community kind of shifted away from Bella is pretty strong, but she is definitely no Katniss Everdeen. And she's also, she's just not the same level of extreme types of intense female leads that you would see before. And I think that getting away from that now, I feel like that would be more of the way Bella would be written. She'd be even stronger if we had a future series that was written today.
Oh, absolutely.
I think Bella would be a lot more direct. She wouldn't be taking any of this BS of these two guys constantly telling her
she probably would have
who
turned
she
a
is
lot
and what
sooner
she does.
Because she wanted to turn sooner.
Yeah, I just don't see this working in the same way. But that brings us to our interview with Nat Just Cakes, which is coming up next. And we may or may not be trying one of her cookies live and get to see some of that. So excited to segue into that. And we're going to come right back afterwards and wrap up with our mystery Q&A.
Good evening. Tonight we have back on our show, Nat is back. Natalie from Nat Just Cakes. Hi, Natalie.
Hi. I'm Natalie from Nat Just Cakes. I specialize in book cookies and cakes, and I'm super excited to be here. Let's do this thing.
We're so excited to have
Yeah.
you back. Could you give our listeners and viewers your handle so they can go ahead and follow you on
Yes,
Instagram and TikTok?
absolutely. Nat Just Cakes on Instagram, and Nat Just Cakes pretty much all the way around. I have TikTok, I have Instagram, I have Twitter, I have everything, or X, I guess. Everything that under the sun.
Awesome. Definitely go ahead and give her a follow if you haven't already. And her cakes and cookies are just awesome. And what we're excited about is we get to try your cookies live
Yeah.
today.
We're trying them today. Oh my God.
We've all got one or two.
Two. You
Yes.
spoiled us. You totally spoiled
Yes.
us. Look at these,
We're
you
ready.
guys. Oh my gosh. So we have, for those listening, we have two designs. Natalie, I'll let you tell us about your designs for these cookies.
So basically, when we discussed originally, we were talked about going over Breaking Dawn, and I wanted to make sure to commemorate that. So I made sure to do one of the cookies is going to be the cover of well, I guess it's not the cover, but it's the font from the movies. And then the other one is the cover of the book itself. So I wanted to make sure to commemorate our big moment and also just to give them something to snack on. Everybody wants to eat something while they
So
talk,
thoughtful.
right?
Incredibly thoughtful. They're beautiful. If you haven't seen Nat Just Cakes online, like, please, if you're listening to this on audio, drop what you're doing, go follow her. Her cakes are they're incredible. I'm really excited to try these live so people can also know that they taste delicious. Which one of these do you
So
want us
good.
to try first? Yeah.
Let's go with the red one, I guess. How do you guys
Okay.
feel about that?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Sounds
Great.
good.
So I make sure that you guys have to like work for it. They're all like
They're
they're
very
like
well sealed.
they're vacuum sealed.
I'm going to show it again. Yeah, there you go. Show it again while we out of the packaging. Look at this work, you guys. So is that
Beautiful.
airbrushing? What's the technique that you use?
So the writing on the very top is actually with edible marker, and then
Whoa.
the piping underneath is just royal icing piping, and then does get an airbrush outer border. So
Let's bite into this
all the way
thing.
together.
It's delicious. So good. It's so
Oh my
soft.
God. These are incredible.
Because a lot of times when you have these sugar cookies that are beautiful,
Mhm.
they don't taste as beautiful as they are. But now
No,
I get
they
that a
don't.
lot.
yours are
I get that a lot. Thank you guys.
equally as good as they look.
I get that a lot.
They're
actually.
as tasty as they are beautiful. Yep.
A lot of people get really they're really shocked that they're soft. I think because of the fact that the icing on the top is like hardened, but it's not hardened all the way through, where you feel like you're like biting into something that's like crunchy, I guess.
Right.
So I guess that's like the assumption that it's going to be crunchy afterwards. But I'm like, no, I just gotta try them. They're actually like they stay really soft for a while, and I think the packaging, like having it sealed in its own like moisture, like it kind of just like sits there and makes sure that the cookie itself stays soft. So I'm glad you guys like it.
That's amazing.
Does anyone watch The Great British Bake Off? Which total segue, because if anyone knows me and who listens to our show knows that this is going to come anyway, no matter what happens. I try my best to rein it in, but the brain just does what it does. If there's like a big critical thing about over and under baking, like they lose their minds about this on the show. Like it's underbaked. It's underbaked. I can't say it in British accent. I just can't do it. But they talk about how it's underbaked, and it's literally like the world's ending if your stuff comes back as underbaked. You guys, the bake on this, that's the other thing, is bake is so good. The cake is moist, the cookie is moist. It's perfect. It's not underbaked.
It's like the
It's not
perfect
overbaked.
color
It's
too. Like
perfect.
if you're looking at the
Yes.
cookie, it's like perfectly
back.
brown to the point that it's supposed to be. Like
Thanks,
perfection.
guys. Definitely
Top
very,
tier.
very specific with
Mm.
the timing and everything. So I appreciate all of those things. I appreciate all your praises.
And then the other one, I'm selfishly going to keep wrapped because I'm
Oh,
not
you're
ready
fine.
to eat it yet. Do you want to eat it, Michelle? We're going to eat the other one yet, or we're going to save it?
I promised
like-
my daughter one.
Okay.
Oh, so this is the one.
That's
She's
fair.
like,
I
I'm not
promised
doing
her
it.
one, so I'm gonna
Okay.
keep
Well,
it.
this is the
Yes,
the,
that's the other one.
the book.
Yeah.
cover.
And
And
it's these and the seal.
book
Let's talk
cover.
about the seal a little bit.
Mhm.
When you go to buy these, if you see Nat Just Cakes or she ships your cakes or your cookies to you for whatever you're having or you order from her, it's double sealed. So usually when you get these cookies, they only have like the one plastic seal on the back, but hers, you open the bag and then there's like another seal inside. So that's a tribute to like that freshness being able to stay, if you ship them or they're sent anywhere. And let's talk about your business a little bit. We often like don't get enough time in our interviews to like really talk about Nat Just Cakes. And so let's talk about that and like Twilight and books and things that are going on that are
All the
exciting for you.
things.
Because Bryn Weaver, I mean, that was a huge deal. We've been watching your books for your cookies for that. Tell us what's going on, Nat. We want to know.
So, for people who don't know, I have been decorating cakes and doing desserts since I was 17. So, officially half my life. I am 34. So,
She's
half my
young.
life. And yeah, 34 years young. And so, in 2020, I opened up my business, my LLC officially, and basically have gone from there. And then in 2023, I got introduced by my best friend to a little book called The Court of Thorns and Roses, who she had been asking me to read for a year. And I was like, no, I'm fine. And she's like, no, you have to read this. I'm
That
serious.
story sounds
And
very familiar. I'm sorry. That
Did
sounds
that,
very
did that
familiar.
happen? Did that happen to
Yeah,
you guys?
yeah. Danny.
Well, I feel like there's always
recommended
just
to
like
me.
one friend trying to influence the other.
Join the cult.
Me. That
So
was me.
my
I was
best
like,
friend
Michelle.
did the same thing
let's
to
do it.
me. And then look
Yeah.
at you guys having a podcast. And then it's like,
Yeah.
for me, it was like, look at like that ended up leading me into basically going into like book cakes. Like I made a cake
Mhm.
for it because I was like a big fan and I couldn't get over it. And it kind of went really big. And then I made actually two. And then it kind of went really big. And then after that, I just started making other book cakes. And now I work with Orlando's romance only bookstore, and I've gotten in contact with a lot of different authors who follow at me and who have encouraged me to continue with it and who just actually are really supportive of the stuff that I've been done, and so grateful for like all the opportunities that kind of opened up because of this lane. And I get to kind of combine two things that I love and be able to have people who actually love watching them and ordering them and enjoying them. So that's kind of where I've been recently. I got in contact with a person that is involved with the movie and basically ended up shipping my
For
cookies
Bryn
out
Weaver,
to him.
right?
Yes, for Bryn Weaver.
Yeah, okay.
And so, sorry, I should have specified that.
Okay.
And so now I'm kind of in the midst of trying to solidify shipping my cookies out like everywhere just to be able to have like a flat fee. That was kind of like a one-time thing where I tried to do it and it was like I charged a certain amount for that time frame, but I'm trying to have something that I can be able to like charge people a flat free fee and be able to send it over to different people all around the country, hopefully. Because
awesome.
I'd love to be able to do all of that and be able to bring like book cookies to people. But yeah, I get to work with people like you guys and do all these really big events and
The
see where
honor's
all of
ours.
this goes. I was like, so it's been a wild ride. It's been a wild ride. I hit 5,000 followers in December, and then about 2 weeks later hit 10,000, and now I'm about 43. It's 43,000,
Nuts.
and
It's insane.
it keeps growing, and it's been a wild ride, to say the least.
God. Yeah, we love being a
amazing.
part of it. Your Quicksilver cookies were the talk of our event. We were so excited to be able to partner with you. They were absolutely stunning. My husband was like, this is art. And I was like, I know. Natalie
Thank
is like
you.
an artist. And then he ate one and he was like, damn, these taste good too. I was like, I know. Because it's the rarity of like getting both, like having both things work. I was like, yeah, she's the real deal. She's really good. And
I get
it's
that
so
a
well
lot.
deserved. It's just, I mean, yeah, it's just
You
totally true.
should.
Well,
I
as
can't
far
tell you
as,
the
like,
number.
As far as like the taste good and the look good, because I get a lot of people who are like, oh my God, it's so beautiful. And then they like eat it, or they'll eat the cake, or they'll eat the cookies, and they're like, oh wow, it tastes good. And I'm like, yeah, I would hope they did. They're just like, no, but you don't understand. I've had, X, Y, and Z that have tasted, looked beautiful, and then they didn't taste as great, or whichever. They've had experiences in the past. And I'm like, well, I think I strive to like, I don't want to serve anything that I wouldn't want to eat myself. So
Right.
And there's no sacrificing. Like, I feel like sometimes when you ask for really intricately designed things, especially food related, you're immediately thinking, oh, I'm going to have to like sacrifice on taste or flavor to make that visual thing happen. But that is not the case with Nat Just Cakes. And as we just showed you live, which I was so excited when you were like, oh, I have cookies for you for my segment. I was like, what?
Yay.
I was ecstatic. I was so excited. And then we got them, and like you had incorporated so many elements. And that's the other thing is like I gave you no information for Quicksilver. I was literally like, wait, whatever you want. And what you came out with, and that was some of the things that the folks at the event specifically said that they were like, she made a carrion cookie that was specific to plants, like to him being a plant dad, number one plant dad. And they loved that because it wasn't just a generic, you could have looked online at like, the book is about X, Y, and Z, da da da, and like make something generic. No, Nat Just Cakes, she's read the book that she's making your cookies for, and she knows exactly what, everybody wants to see. So it was great.
Well, and
Thanks,
one was an
guys.
acronym that we had to look up because I was like, what is this acronym? And it's the one where it's
Oh
I'm
no,
gonna
I
introduce
saw
you to
that
all
one and
seven
I was
gods.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, I saw that one and I was like, okay, I have to add this one. But I was like,
Yeah.
I had to look it up as well. I'm not gonna lie to you. I seriously was like, no, I was like, and I think I knew that it was that one, but I was like,
We did
I
too.
kept
We didn't know the
saying it wrong.
exact
I kept
phrase.
saying it wrong. I kept saying like, I don't know, like I was like, I think I was saying it, but like without like the I am. I think I was like, thought it was I'm. So I kept saying it. I was like, what's the A for? I don't understand the whole I am about to introduce you to all seven gods. I was like, I'm about what?
Right.
Yeah.
No, I saw the G. I'm like, no, it has to be with the gods. I can't remember the
Mhm.
rest of it.
But even like the little intricacies, like Saris's jewelry story, like you had this beautiful purple cookie that had like this really cool design, and just like taking elements from the story or even creating your own creative spin on elements of the story that we could tell, and so could our guests, that, you're the real deal. You're not just someone who's making books into cakes because it's a possibility to go viral.
Trendy.
It's not that. You
Right.
love, it's not trying to be trendy. You love these stories, and we can see that in the passion and in what you created for us. And so again, even taking this extra mile of like, here, I'm gonna send you guys some cookies to try. I was like, what? And then like even having the extra step of like, well, this is from the movie font and like this is from the book cover, so like there's a difference. It's like, you know what you're doing, and you take the
So-
time to take that extra step to do so. Yeah, we love it.
Just to like, details are my love language, like in any sense of the word. Like in like anybody that like knows me intricately, they'll say like details are my love language. Like I'm obsessed with like tiny details. Like it just like, I don't know, it scratches something in my brain. Going into like having like adding small details to things, like even having like little get-togethers and stuff. I don't know if you guys saw the thing with the Jenny and Georgia thing that I did with
Mhm.
my sister. Like
I saw
that was
it.
just me and my sister. That was literally just for me and my sister, and I just like made sure to print out things and have little signs for all the food that was there and things like that. Like details are my love language. So
That's
like
awesome.
anytime I get to do all those little things, especially for people who read these books and who like get to like know what each thing means, like I don't know, it means so much to me to be able to like connect with people with something that I love to do. And then, I mean, two different things that I love to do, and then meet people that actually love those things too. So it's like it's a whole moment.
That's awesome. Yeah, we can definitely tell,
definitely
which is the best
Love
part.
both the books and the cookies. So
Yeah.
let's actually get into Twilight now. So, do you love most about Twilight? And it can be the whole saga or something very specific.
It's like itself, or like, I guess, okay, so this is gonna be like probably like a two-parter. I have so much nostalgia with Twilight. Twilight was such a huge time frame of my life, and it was just, I think it was like, I feel like everything's kind of bigger when you're younger. Everything's like a bigger moment when you're younger. And I
Mhm.
think that, as much as books now, like they excite me and they like, revitalize me and let me be able to like escape. It's an escape thing. I feel like as a teenager, experiencing all of those emotions that you feel now with books, and then
Mhm.
getting to experience that back then with like this like intense, like, like these intense moments of experiencing like this beautiful love in this freaking crazy fantasy world, and this, stuff that I experience in books now, but I'm able to experience it through the lens of like a teenager and all those emotions mixed in. It was just such a big moment in time. And I just loved that it was like the original. I don't know. I had spoken to you guys about this before, but I remember reading somewhere that said that Edward walked so Rhysand could run. And it basically said that, Edward was this telepath who was obsessed with Bella, who was this, just kind of plain Jane girl who everybody became obsessed with, which was, Rhysand and Feyre. And then you've got the super, super buff cinnamon roll guy who's in love with like the really like grumpy girl who's like angry at the world, which was, Emmett and Rosalie. And then you have the pixie girl who's like super in love with like the broody, like keep away from me guy, which is basically like Elaine and Azriel. And I was like, well, I was like,
And you have
I
like
feel like
Cassian
it's
and Nesta. Yeah.
yeah.
For the other,
And
for
so
Emmett and Rosalie. Yeah. I can see
yeah,
it.
and so like it's just one of those things where like I feel like it was like the blueprint. It was like the original blueprint for all the things that we loved in stories like these. Obviously ACOTAR is such a huge series right now. It's like the one of the core, four that is like hugely like relatable to most people who like fantasy. And I feel like that was the blueprint. That was the blueprint. That was the beginning of that kind of introduction before book talk existed, before all of these different like social media spaces where people were able to discuss about stories like that. That was the story that brought everybody together with the movies and the fandoms and the fan casting and all the things. Like I genuinely feel like that was like the beginning of all of it.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was a
For
lot.
sure. No, that was
No.
why we asked it. That's exactly why we asked it. And I think you're totally spot on. I wanted to ask you, I have this thing, and we'll talk about it. We would talk about it more when we talk about certain things. But I was telling Michelle we were watching the movies, and I was talking to her. I was like, Bella and Edward are fated mates. Before fated mates was like a trope, they're
Yeah.
definitely have every single box checking of fated mates that we talk about now in book talk and in ACOTAR and in, all the different Crescent City, whatever, all the different things that we read about that have fated mates, Quicksilver even, right? They're fated mates. Before that was ever talked about. It's totally how I see them. I don't know. Do you agree, disagree?
Absolutely, I agree. Like I said, blueprint. I feel like they had like all these different people had the things that like we wanted. It was like you have this like high stakes situation with this girl who is who can't really defend herself. And then you have like these big powers that are coming against them that are forcing them to go into this specific situation that they don't want to be in. And then you have like, you have this other guy who came around and he is somebody that maybe in another life she would have chosen, but the better
Hamlin.
guy won. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it was like, and then it's like also I kept thinking about like this before we had this conversation. You think about the Edward and Jacob, there are a lot of people who will try to say like, oh, they both were really, really toxic and like in their own way, even though a lot of people will also defend that Edward, no matter what, was like the perfect person. And in the same way, in the fandom, people do the same thing where people will say like, oh, Rhysand and Tamlin are both toxic in their own way. And then there are people who will be like, no, like Rhysand is the perfect mate. And I feel like it's the same,
Or
like it's the
Tamlin
same
does
thing.
or does not need a redemption arc. Whatever.
Yeah, and it's like some people are like, yo, like they're like, Jacob was just like controlling the entire time, and he doesn't deserve to freaking be with like whatever he got with a baby. It's one of those things where
Yeah.
I just feel like it was the original one that we all connected to and didn't even realize it at the time. You know what I mean?
No, and like look, 20 years later, for all the haters, right? Because we were talking about in a previous interview that we did where, there's a whole lot of people who like to make fun of Twilight, and I've never seen a fandom that embraced that more than Twilight does. Twilight fans are cool with it. They don't care. They know that parts of it are cheesy. They know that parts of it are funny. They even have
Problematic.
questioned themselves. Yeah, are
Little
problematic. I mean,
problematic.
that's part of embracing the story of it. But you can't argue that 20 years later we're still talking about it. They're re-releasing the
Yes.
books 20 years later. The movies are
Isn't
on
that
Netflix,
crazy?
and everyone's obsessively rewatching them, having, marathons watching these movies. We had the amazing opportunity to interview, as part of our coverage, to interview the author of the unofficial Twilight cookbook. And
Oh.
she was saying like, I want to envision people using my cookbook for their watch parties. Like, make all the things. I want to
Yeah.
see you make all the things, and it's like, I can totally see that. And it's exciting. It's a really cool thing to be part of. And it's everybody knows these Twilight pivotal scenes. People remember them. It has staying power. And, against the odds of what was perceived when they made the first like indie film of Twilight and nobody thought it was going to do anything, it's like far exceeded anyone's possible expectations of what Twilight could be and what fandoms could be for this type of media and this type of genre.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that they stated that I think Summit Entertainment was like saved by Twilight. Like they were like a really small like production company and they were gonna like go under and Twilight saved them. And I think it's crazy to think that like, again, this was before all of the book talk stuff. This was before there was no online book clubs, there was no nothing, but it was something that really drew people together. Like I have visceral memories of buying t-shirts for every single movie that came out and going to the midnight premieres and making sure that we were like in line sitting on the floor waiting in line to make sure we were like one of the first ones to get into the movie theaters, because that was before they used to like you could pick your movie seats, so you would have to like sit there and wait to make sure you got a good seat. And like, you know what I mean? Like it's things like that I just feel like kind of made it stand out, where it was like, I think it was an era where it was the things that bring us together as book lovers now, but like before we had the means to actually call other people together. You know what I mean? Before we were able to send emails and send notifications and put these online things, it was just like everybody organically found a way to join each other for this love of this story. And so, yeah.
Natalie, I have a question for you. Do you remember? So I was talking to Michelle about this because we were watching New Moon, and I was saying to her, when Jacob takes his shirt off the very first time and she like crashes her motorcycle, I saw that in theaters the first time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did your theater like go insane?
Oh yeah,
screaming?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
you
see, we lost our minds. We were screaming.
There are like specific
oh my gosh.
moments in time that people like
it was a
like
moment.
made like what is it, gathered like gasps and like gathered like screams and things like that. Like that was one of those moments for sure, because I think he was gonna lose that role. Like he wasn't gonna be, he was gonna be recast for that role, and he worked out like crazy and freaking made sure that he bulked up, because if you look at the first movie to the second movie, how big he got in that time frame.
He looks a lot different.
Yeah, because so everybody was like waiting for it and they were like, all right.
That's funny. See, I didn't experience the culture phenomenon when it was like, live and well and being birthed. And that's just, I think it just says something amazing to how Twilight was able to bring people together in such a way. Like you were saying, it's because it's not about the storyline necessarily. Yes, we love this. People love the storyline, but there's just some craze behind it, and since that hasn't really happened in the past so much, that it just people went wild. I mean, I remember Team Edward, Team Jacob like shirts were everywhere, and you had to pick a side. It was like Backstreet Boys versus NSYNC, like, and you like those are your people, and if they were against you, then you're not friends anymore. And that was like I was an outsider looking into that. So
was it just that you just weren't interested at the time, or you just like
vampires just weren't my thing? I was more Hunger Games.
Okay.
I didn't really get into vampires until the Vampire Diaries, and that was when I was more. That was after the series already started. I think I was in college at the time when I started like, oh, vampires. Okay, sounds cool. So it just wasn't really my thing. The books came out when I was in elementary school, and then I think I was in 7th grade when the movies came out. And since I didn't really read the books, I didn't really, I was like, okay, sure, that sounds fine. And I went and saw one movie in theater, and it wasn't even the first one. It was either New Moon or Eclipse, and it was because it was like a double date type thing situation. So I was just there. So I'm actually like listening to people like speak about this in a nostalgic way. I'm like, oh, I didn't get that experience. And I love that for you guys. So, and how that was like so impactful.
But you're getting
in
it
youth.
now.
Yeah, you're getting it
Yeah.
now. And I always wonder if I would even like the movies if I never read the books. You know what I mean? Like, I
Hmm.
feel like I wonder if I would like the movies in a general sense, because I have a lot of people in my life that have never read the books but have watched the movies. And I always am like, do you think that it's like super cheesy, or is it like it's like so bad it's good, or like I don't know, like I have like a weird like connection to it because I read
Hmm.
them and I watched them when I was really really young, but like
Right. Right. I mean, so I watched the movies fully when I was like, I just had my daughter. So I was in like that weird stage of there's nothing to really do and you're kind of a blob right now. So let's kind of, just watch movies. And I'm now rewatching them because we're doing this and reading them for the first time. And I will say the movies do not do the book justice. Like, I actually enjoy Bella. Like, she's
oh, not at
sarcastic
all.
and like her humor is like,
She's
it's dry
awesome.
humor, but she has such a personality. I'm like, okay, where is this? And she's like caring to Charlie. And I was so mad that when I first watched, we watched Twilight, like Danny was listening to me the time. And I'm like, that's not in the book. That's not how the book says it. That's not it
Mhm.
the entire time. And, she doesn't cook for Charlie at all. I'm like, what? That makes it, she was so endearing for that. So there are a lot
Mhm.
of things that the movies just,
Yeah, she has a
if you like to
job in
fully appreciate, you
Twilight,
have
the
to,
books.
yeah.
Yeah, she has like a
There's a
lot of
bunch of
things that she
stuff that,
does just didn't
yeah, that
cross
they just,
over.
they just
Right.
didn't
It's
include
funny
them. And
that
I
you
get
say
that they don't
that.
have time, but it's like, man, some of that's part of her character development. It's important.
Yes.
It shows who she is as a person. And I feel like all they did was showcase her awkwardness. Like that was it. That was her whole personality in the movies, was that she
Right.
showcased her awkwardness, and that was and I'm like,
Which she
she was
was like
awkward.
awkward. She couldn't walk
But
for anything. But
yeah, but she has like a personality. And it's funny because my husband's read the books. Like he read the books and like went to see the movie stuff. He has two sisters. So so
oh.
and so he said the same thing when he watched them. He was like, they're not they you know, they didn't really showcase like her as a person. Like Bella was awesome in the books. She kind of like just not that endearing in the movie. Like
Yeah.
she's just not really like, she's just kind of there. And I was like, yeah, that's like unfortunately.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and even her relationship with Jacob and I don't think that in the movies is it's emphasized sort of, but I feel like it's more glazed over than anything else.
For
And
sure.
it's very much more highlighted that the true friendship and bond they have there between the two of them beyond what the movies show. But you're always going to feel that way. I felt that way about Harry Potter. I felt that way. Oh my God, Divergent. I'm still upset about that. I
I've
felt
never
that.
read, but I've heard many things because the
Divergent
movies
was such a good series, like a great book series. It's still one of my favorite YA. That experience, I loved Divergent. I loved all of it, and I was so excited for the movies to come out, and I just, yeah,
I
did
thought
not
Hunger
yeah,
go as I
Games,
thought.
like in that genre, because that was like at a time where like we're just dystopian everything. Because there was Hunger Games,
Oh yeah,
Divergent, Maze Runner. There was like a whole bunch of dystopian movies
because
coming
they
out
went
based
from
on books.
vampires, they did
Right.
like
vampires
Ready
for
To the
Player
world is
One.
everything, and then they were
ending.
like,
Yeah,
the world's ending. Now we're gonna do all the world's ending, and then it was like, all
Yeah.
right. So I'm anticipating whenever Akatar comes out, it's gonna be like all the
Bat
fake things,
Boys.
just like back to back to back to back.
It's exactly gonna be
exactly.
it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, well, we'll see. We'll see how this all goes. I mean, I'm here for it. Whatever.
So with Twilight, do you have any dislikes about the series?
It's funny because I feel like it's been so long that since I've read them. I will say, obviously there's problematic things that I never thought of as an adolescent. Like I never considered them as being like, I was like, whatever, it's a fantasy book." But then I think about like the whole like freaking Jacob, being, what is it? Him, I want to say sire. It's not siring. It's him being
Imprinting.
Imprinting.
imprinting. It's him imprinting on Renesmee. I was like,
Yeah.
as an adult,
A
I'm
little
like,
weird.
that's a, that's a little groomy. I don't know. I don't really know how I feel about that as an adult. But and somebody made like a comment where they were like, because I like I said, I watched a lot of like, what is it, reaction videos, and I'll watch a lot of like Twilight reaction videos. And there
Ooh.
was one that somebody said something where they were like, you they were like, you like, because at one point when Jacob says that he there was a reason that everything happened was because Renesmee was the reason why he was attracted to her and the reason why he was around her or whatever. And he was like, this little girl was like semen like 2 days ago. Like she was like only like she was born in like a month. You're gonna tell me that you were like crushing on her for months and months and months because of this like non-born baby that popped out like literally within a month's time? And I was like, yeah, that's a little that's a little interesting. And then
Yeah.
yeah, it's things like that, like things that I just as a child, I don't think I would have
We didn't.
thought much
Mm-mm.
about it because
We didn't.
again, it
I
was
didn't. I didn't when it came out.
no.
I wasn't thinking like that. I wasn't a mom. I wasn't married. I also like
Yeah.
didn't have a lot of. I was the kind of the kid. I wasn't. I wasn't thinking in an adult, fully functioning adult brain by then. But even by the time all the movies came out, I had already read the books. So I already knew the story. And I
Yeah.
agree with you. But then there's like people that are on the camp of like, well, he was attracted to Bella because he's gonna go deep and kind of creepy. Renesmee's egg was there the whole time because like your
I
body only
guess.
has so many eggs from birth or whatever, and so like his subconscious whatever knew about this. And then there's a camp that says like, well, if the Cullens had never, been around and they wouldn't have become wolves, and like Bella and Jacob would have ended up together. Like they would have been married and he would have never shifted and like none of that magic would have existed. But I was like, I don't buy that piece for me because she's a shield. So that doesn't make sense. Like he was always supposed to find her. Edward was.
It's kind of like the whole like it's kind of like I'm gonna keep bringing this back up because the connections are just crazy to me. But I do it's like the Tamlin and Feyre thing. It's like you're gonna say that like just because like oh well you know if Rhysand was never around then she would have just ended up with Tamlin. I'm like she still was still Rhysand's mate. Like it wouldn't have changed that. You know what I mean? Like it's the same thing with Edward where it's like yeah maybe if she wasn't around maybe she would have ended up with Jacob, but there would have always been like a hole there where it's like something that he couldn't fill because Edward was always her person. Like at the end of the day, it's funny because when the whole Jacob versus Edward thing was going on, my friend, my best friend at the time was like, she was so like Team Jacob, Team Jacob. But I remember thinking as like even as like a young kid, I was like, there's really no like there's really no Team Edward or Team Jacob. Like there was never a
No.
time frame that she really was like, I want to be with Jacob. It was like, hey, Edward's not here. I guess you're here, so we'll hang out. I like you as a friend. But it was never like I want to be with I want to be with Jacob. And even if Edward was here, I'm kind of like, confused. It was like, no, I'm around you because the person that I want to be with is not around. And I'm
Oh
like,
yeah. And I wonder if the team Jacob, Team Edward thing was more for the fandom than it was for the actual story. I
Oh,
feel like
yeah.
people just wanted to make it something fun to like have a decision on. Not that I don't think anyone ever thought that she was going to actually pick, because that was the thing too, is like a lot of people were like, who hadn't read the books or watched the movies or some, didn't know what she was going to end up picking, really going way back to early Twilight. It was like they didn't know like what the outcome was going to be. But I really don't think that was even, for me, it was never a debate. She always going to pick Edward. Like that was
Yeah.
clear from book one. Like
I mean, yeah,
there was nobody else.
I think that some people like to be contrary. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like the same thing as like when you stand in certain. If you're part of any fandoms, if anybody out there is part of any fandoms, you already know that there's going to be, even if you have two people that have been together or like they're supposed to be together, there's going to be like a handful of people that are going to be like, no, well, actually, this person should be with this person, and I have a theory because blah 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 blah. And I'm like,
Oh yeah.
okay, yeah, I guess, but at
People
the end
think
of the
that
day,
about Fourth Wing with Xaden and
blasphemy.
Violet. They think that I know. They think that they're gonna break up and she's gonna find someone else. I remember people thinking that, and I'm just like thinking to myself, like, are we reading the same series? Because like I don't know how anyone could ever possibly think that. And
yes,
maybe they would break up only because of circumstances, but not because they don't want to be together. And
but
even
she's-
if that, well, there
she's
and we know what
never
happens in August
showed-
Storm now, but she's actually never wavered, and he's
Yeah, but
never
that's what I'm
wavered either. Yeah.
Exactly. She's never ever had any interest in anybody else. So like that's such a wild take. But okay, sure.
Right, exactly. Okay, sure. We're not the author. We don't know. Rebecca could do whatever she does. And so, okay, let's go to we're going to get to our questions. I swear we will, people. We're going to get there.
These are deep dives. These are real deep dives.
Really, I know we're getting into it. But I mean, this is so heavy. This is like a lot. There's a lot to cover here. I mean, we're talking about 5 movies, 5 books, a lot of information, and like a whole cultural phenomena. You can't really just like tip the iceberg without asking some of the tougher questions, which now my question to you is, when did you first start reading Twilight, which you kind of covered sort of, but like were there books still coming out when you started reading it? Was the whole series completed? And
Oh
then
yeah, no.
have you ever done a reread?
I don't think I've ever done a reread. I think that maybe in the first, maybe I did, maybe when I was like younger. I think
Mm.
it's funny because Twilight, I feel like a lot of people have gone through this, where Twilight was like that big intro book where I was obsessed, stopped reading for like years and years and years, got into ACOTAR, and then freaking now I'm here. But Twilight, I think
That was
I
me.
started, yeah, see, there we go. And then you like indoctrinated Michelle, and now look at that.
Yes. Here we are.
No, I think I started reading Twilight, if I'm not mistaken, when I was in ninth grade. So I think that was 2005? 2005,
Okay.
maybe?
So that's when they first
So
came out.
Yeah, I don't, the books were coming out. I know that not all of them are out. Maybe the first two were out. I don't know, something like that, two or three. But I know that I know that the last book wasn't out. And I know that there was like a big thing where, people would come to school with their book in their hand. I remember seeing the book.
2000 for Breaking Dawn.
Oh, see, look at that. Yeah, so I remember going to school. I remember seeing a friend of mine with the books, with the first book in her hand, and I remember after that hearing about it, and I was like, okay. And then I ended up reading it and getting like my best friend into it, and then getting my sister into it, and like getting like all the people around me pretty much to be like, you have to read this book. And so they ended up freaking all reading it, and there we are. But I remember when the movies got announced, it's so funny thinking about it now because of the fact that now we have social media and we do like fan casts, but we're all connected through like Instagram and book talk and all these different things where we do these fan casts and we talk about it with each other. I remember watching fan casts on YouTube of like Henry Cavill and like the kid from Sky High. I don't know if you guys ever watched that. It was like a Disney, is that the long-haired kid, the fire
Oh, yeah, the
presenting
fire
kid.
guy. Yeah.
Yeah, him. I remember seeing him. He was like, they were fan casting him as Jacob, and they were fan casting Henry Cavill
I could
as
see-
yeah, and they were fan casting Henry Cavill as Edward, and there was like fan casts of, I forgot who they were putting as Bella. But I remember those things in particular just because there was a specific like video that I remember watching over and over again. I was like, this has to happen. This has got to be it. And like, I just think about that now and I'm like, oh my God, we do fan casts now. But that was like back in the JJ. So
The OG fan cast, yeah.
the YouTube before YouTube was a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
That YouTube was wild.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was
a bit
It was
unhinged.
the Wild
Stuff
West.
over there.
That's the Wild West back in the day. Can you think that's friggin' 20 years ago.
It's nuts.
That's
Yeah.
It's
insane.
nuts, actually, to think about. That was when I had a top 8 on MySpace and all that good
Oh,
stuff. Nice to
I had
you
a
could build a
top
web
eight. Oh, yeah.
page.
And then when you're
I had
mad
a
at
topic.
someone, you kick them out.
Oh, you know.
You're
No.
out.
Yep. No.
Then if
You're
you
like-
were in
or
your
if
top
you're, like,
3, that was your core.
That was your core
those are your
circle.
people. Uh-huh.
Did you put your
Cha-
boyfriend in the top 3? Like, were they 1 or 2? How did
They
you?
were always number 2.
That was like,
I think my top.
that's correct.
No,
Your
don't
BFF
think
always had to be
Bestie
1.
first. Bestie first.
Yeah.
I feel like my boyfriend in high school was way too cool to have like all the social media, so he would just
Oh,
never be
yeah.
on it, and so I was just like, all right, well, I guess I'm not. Guess you're not part of this.
That's funny.
Not in the top 8. You're out.
Oh my gosh, that
That
What a
was
time.
nostalgia.
wild.
It's gonna be like half the people on here would be like, what are they talking about?
What is MySpace?
No.
What
But
is that?
I don't
MySpace was
remember,
ahead of
like-
its time.
Yeah,
So
but the
much ahead of
Twilight
its time.
fans, people had Twilight MySpaces.
touche.
The whole thing.
Touche.
They
And it
have
was
it
like
as our
what was it?
wallpaper and the
You-
song and everything.
You have to like code everything and things
Oh
would be,
yeah,
like,
you were
falling down.
HTML Pro.
Yes.
So certain things would
Do you remember those-
glitter.
Do you
Oh,
remember
yeah.
those little there was like little dolls that they used to be able to put on your pages and stuff where it was like these little
Yes.
like cartoon dolls and then you dress them up and stuff and then some people would have them dressed up like kind of like Bella-ish or whatever. Like I don't know. I feel like that's like such a like I feel like I'm going through like a time capsule right now.
So you said you haven't done a reread. Would you consider doing a reread now, like as an adult?
Yes, actually. It's
Okay.
funny because I've had Midnight Sun by my bed for like months. I've been meaning to read it. I'm at the space right now where it's really hard for me to read physical books. I am always working, so like audiobooks have been like my best friends.
Mhm.
And I'm not really a big fan of the audiobook narrator in the Twilight series, unfortunately. So I've been trying to like, I was like, oh, well, at least I can read Midnight Sun. It's a different perspective. I just haven't really gotten around to it, but I'm trying to like within the next week. I'm actually taking like 2 weeks off in August. So I was like,
Good for
we're
you.
just gonna catch up with some stuff. So we'll see.
Good. Good.
Yeah.
Take that much needed time. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're gonna try and do a reread or at least read Midnight Sun soon. That's awesome. Okay.
Yeah. I was like, have you guys done a reread? Well, Michelle, I know you're
It's
doing your
Michelle's first
first
time.
read. Yeah,
Yeah.
but Danny, have you done a reread or have you?
So I think kind of the same boat. I remember the books being out for a little bit, but I have to say, like, I've told this story before. I don't know if I've told it on the show before, but I've told Michelle before that I was a big Harry Potter person and Hunger Games too. I love Hunger Games, but truly a huge Harry Potter fan. And in 11th grade for me is when book 6 came out, and I had waited for the pre-order, right? And so like I was very, very into Harry Potter, and I remember vividly, spoilers by the way, a friend of mine, Daniel, who I consider a close friend, and if you're listening, Daniel, yes, I still remember this, and I am still bitter. He walked up to me one time we were breaking in between bells in high school, right? We're walking, and he walks up to me and he's like, I don't know what this means. And he's like laughing, and he goes, but just so you know, because I was carrying around, this is back in the day, I was carrying around my monster book 6, I was carrying around the 6th book with me, throughout my class periods.
Yeah.
He walks up to me and just goes, Snape kills Dumbledore, and like starts laughing and walks away.
What? Wow, Danny,
The
you're a dick.
way, yeah.
That's when her villain
Wow.
era
He
was
didn't know.
born.
Yes, exactly. He didn't know the gravity of what he had told me, and he literally like was trying to apologize to me the like entire rest of the school year. And like I bring this up to him. I haven't seen him in years now, but like it messed me up so bad. I was devastated.
Aw.
Devastated trying to
That
figure
was
this out. And this
such
is
a big
before.
moment.
Oh my god, it was the worst spoiler ever. Oh my god, it was so
Oh
bad.
my
Anyway,
God.
so getting back to the real question of rereads, right? So I wasn't really like a diehard Twilight fan until later, where a good friend of mine, Eclipse had come out by this time. So this was before Breaking Dawn. So the first 3 were out, and I had them on my TBR for a while, but I was reading other stuff. I was busy with school, whatever. Hadn't got to it. Wanted to get to it. I think I read the first book, and then I was like, all right, I'll read them later. All of 3 of them are out, and my friend was like, look, Eclipse had just come out recently, like in that same year. And she's like, Eclipse is the best one. She's like, you need to read them. Eclipse is my favorite by far. You need to read it. The next book is coming out soon. So like I had Breaking Dawn coming out soonish, and then like the movies were starting to come out during this time too. And so I was like, all right. So I read them. I read Eclipse, and I was waiting for Breaking Dawn. And then Breaking Dawn had come out later. Read that one too. Was immediately hooked. Couldn't wait to see. Like I really remember vividly waiting to see what Bella's dress was going to be for the movie. Like it was a huge hype, a moment where we were waiting and waiting and waiting to find out who was going to make the dress, what was Alice going to wear, like this whole thing, like what is it going to look like? I remember being on the cover of People magazine, her dress, and like with Edward, like it was huge. Like they were on the cover of People magazine for the dress. Like this was literally like cataclysm. Like there is no, I really can't think of another fandom other than Game of Thrones on the level of like recent fandoms that have like taken over to this extent other than Twilight. Like it just was everywhere. It was inescapable. Like
Right.
it was
That
everywhere.
Christina Perry
And so, like,
song was in like everyone's wedding for like 5
Oh, yeah.
years after that.
Yep.
That's what everyone walked down the aisle to.
mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yep.
it
was
was
a big
a
deal.
time to be alive.
Truly.
Oh man. Yeah, no, I definitely remember. I remember getting this book that my sister bought me that was like a guide to like the first movie, where it was like they would have like instructional books where it basically was going over like all the background set stuff and like how they did the casting and like all this stuff. And I remember keeping that, and like I remember just like you said, it was everywhere. It was everywhere. It was like these huge freaking events that people were having. And again, this was like before people were doing things for socials. So it was like just people were just doing them because they liked them. It wasn't because it
Because
was
they liked it,
anything
yep.
that they were like they were
Mhm.
recording or they were doing it for,
Mm-mm.
for media or anything. It was just like them just doing it for the sake of having time with each other because they love the story so much, which is crazy. I do remember, because you asked me before something that I didn't like. I do remember me being so pissed off that Alice was not short. That she was supposed to be
Oh.
really tiny. She was supposed
She
to be very
was.
tiny and very
Like pixie-like.
very
Mhm.
pixie-like.
Yeah.
And I remember her being tall, and I was just like,
They gave her
like,
pixie
But
hair.
I do love I
yeah,
love
but she
Ashley
was supposed to be
Greene.
like,
I love her as the role, though. I think Ashley Greene like plays a very
She
good
did.
Alice. But
she
yeah,
did.
you're right. She didn't physically meet the book expectation. That's true.
Which is fine. And I've always said this, even when they do, you know, adaptations, my headspace is not like you don't need to physically match the characteristics of the characters. As long as you give the feel of the characters and you look generally like what they would look like, fine. But I think originally, you know, I mean, I was a teenager. I was like, this is not right. It needs to be this way and blah, blah, blah. And then like now I'm like, oh no, she did a good job though.
I think you become less like you care about that less later in life. Like I don't care as much now, not because I don't care about the stories, but because I'm like, if you can play the role, like who cares? Like that part is not as relevant.
I don't know. I know some people will be like, you know, our age who read Fourth Wing, read Quicksilver, that if that casting isn't right for Xaden and Kingfisher, there will be uprisings. So I don't know if it's necessarily a maturity
Forgot
thing.
about that part.
Yeah.
Oh no, but that's like main male characters. To this day,
Yeah.
I'm still pissed off that Robert Pattinson was freaking to Edward. So
Really?
I'm never
Really?
get
Who
over
was
that.
your
Who would you
Edward?
want to?
Henry Cavill will always be my Edward. That was like the
Okay.
only person I wanted, and that's funny because that's actually who she wanted. Who? Yeah, we did
Catherine
not Catherine Hardwicke, Stephenie Meyer.
Oh, really?
We did a Twilight when I did the Twilight cookies recently
Hmm.
for the Bookish Cafe. They did trivia, and that was one of the questions of who did she want? Who does Stephenie Meyer want to be Edward? And it was Henry Cavill. And so I was like, that was always mine. It was always mine, like forever, because he was way younger. That was like 20 years ago. So like he would have
Right.
fit the bill. Yeah.
He would have.
And
Yeah,
so it was
totally.
supposed to be him, and I think her Bella was, I don't know her name. I think it's Emily Browning. She's the girl from Sucker Punch, and she's from the series of Unfortunate Events. I
Mhm.
believe her name is Emily Browning or something like that.
Interesting. I
Okay.
have to go pull it up. Okay.
Yeah, but those were like her fan casts of what she envisioned when she was like writing that. And I was like, Robert Pattinson. Robert Pattinson didn't even like his role. He wasn't even happy to be there.
I think that's so funny that he hated Twilight. Like he was very vocal about it, and it didn't really. I mean, from what I saw, it almost made it like, I don't know, like kind of like his character endearing in a way. Like, oh, you don't like it, ha ha ha. But you know, if you're crapping on your role like now, people would get pissed about it. But I don't think it didn't at least come off to me any negativity in the aspects that he had in the film, like his personal opinion separated from the film, at least. But I thought that was hilarious. Like, it's ironic that this is one of the things that made him really big, and he just hated every second of it.
I think that just has to do with the fact that, like Danny had said, where it's like, I feel like the Twilight era, the Twilight like fandom, I feel like kind of doesn't take themselves too seriously, where they, you know what I mean? They were able to like take it seriously, where they were like, we love this story, but we're also aware of how cringy certain things are, and how like, you know, funny certain things are, and how like, you know, ridiculous certain things are. But we love that about this. So the fact that he was like, I hate this role, they were like, that's funny.
It's fine.
That's fine. We get it, but like we're glad that you did it. And so I'm like, I guess.
And also, I wonder too, like, I mean, yeah, you see like the clips of him talking about it, but then the way it changed his life, man. Like, this was like, to your point earlier, of like how
everybody on
it,
there.
yeah,
Yeah.
it just their lives are still not the same. It changed
Now
their
he's gonna
lives
be
so
our new
dramatically
Batman.
that they're
Yeah.
just not the same. Like, it just catapulted them to a level that they're a fandom level that they're still literally riding the high from. Like, this
Yeah.
series has done that for them, which is again wild. You know,
Yeah.
it's just nuts. All right,
I
so which was
mean-
your favorite? Which book or movie was your favorite? Are they different? Are they the same?
They're very different. They're very
Okay.
different. it's funny because I feel like in the books, my most hated was New Moon. And I actually really love the New Moon movie. Like I really like the way it was directed. I love the intro. I love the whole like old lady in the mirror and like it kind of portrays how she like views herself. I loved the whole scene where she's like running to the fountain and she like jumps in his arms. Like I remember watching that scene like over and over when I was younger. And but in the books, like, I think because I was such a diehard Edward person that, like, the like, having to go, like, most of the book without him there, I was like, "Oh my god, can we just get back over here?" It's like, I just want Edward back. And I was like, "I don't wanna read about her being depressed. I just want Edward to come back." And so there's that. But then in the books, I think my favorite was Eclipse. But it's funny because the movies, I don't really like Eclipse that much. I
Same.
really, really, and
That's
like
fair.
yeah, like I just didn't really feel like it portrayed the right stuff from the books. And it's funny because I feel like most of the movies really did a good job at like portraying things exactly like the books. But I think that they picked and chose. There we go. They picked and chose the wrong spaces in Eclipse. Or maybe it was just a director. I don't know. But there was something about it that I didn't like in Eclipse. But I loved Breaking Dawn. I think I like Breaking Dawn for part 1 and part 2 for the movies, and I really did love New Moon in the movies. How about you guys?
Okay. But Eclipse was your favorite book, though?
Eclipse was my favorite book. Yes.
Okay. Okay. I got to think about it. I'll be honest. In my reread, I think is going to be different than my nostalgia thoughts. For the movies, I love New Moon. I really did. And I actually really liked Breaking Dawn Part 2 because the ending of Breaking Dawn is so intense. And seeing that visually, I had been waiting for so long to see that scene with Alice and like the whole tie-in of everything that I really loved seeing that actually play out visually. So that would probably be my answer for that. Book-wise, I loved Breaking Dawn for the length of it because it was such a, like, she took her time. We got a lot of information out of Breaking Dawn. And as a reader, that being the last book was a very climactic ending to a massive series. And I felt like Stephenie Meyer did her fan base a justice by giving us a very hearty final book. I mean, this is not a small book. This was there was a lot happening with that. But I agree with you. New Moon was a struggle because the same thing. I was like, hey, like, is this guy coming back? What are we doing?
Team
I
Edward.
get pissed off. Yeah. I was Team Edward. So yes, same. I love Jacob too for different reasons, but it's like, I agree with you. And Eclipse book was like probably my favorite too. So it's a toss up, but I would say overall I probably agree. Yeah, I feel like we're right there, Natalie.
We're gonna circle back to you, Michelle, and be like,
Yeah,
"So
I
what
haven't
do we
finished the
think?"
books yet all the way, so I will answer that later on.
Very curious to see what you end up saying.
I mean, so far, like, I'm enjoying the books more than I thought I was going to. So
Yeah.
I honestly, Stephenie Meyer gets crapped on for her writing all the time. And she's just not, she's very direct in her writing. She doesn't write very eloquently. She writes very like matter of fact. Like, this is exactly what is happening. She doesn't give a whole lot of details on like spending 2 pages on like how a person looks, you know? Which doesn't mean her writing's bad. This is YA. It shouldn't be that big. So I have enjoyed what I've read so far more than I thought that I was going to, because my perspective has only been from the movies. So yeah.
So
I'm
we'll
excited to
circle
see.
back to it and see how you
Yeah.
feel. Do
Yeah.
you have a favorite movie? Like favorite versus like least favorite?
I like Breaking Dawn, both of them, just because the ending. The ending was very, there was a lot with the ending and the wrap up of the series. I honestly really like Twilight, like the first one, the blue tint. It's just, I think it's fun. It's really fun. And I know that's when they were low budget and it's kind of like the beginning of the series. But I just think just because it has all of its quirks, there are a lot more quirks in the first one since, low budget. I find that kind of entertaining to watch. So
The cheesiness.
No, I get that. I get
Yeah.
We
that.
laughed
though.
so much. We watched it together, and I had forgot. Like, I didn't forget, but like she's going through it the first time, like with the book and like comparing the things from the book to the movie, which I have done, a while ago. So it's like sitting with her and like watching it together with someone who's like in the throes of the beginnings of this was like really fun because she was getting so bad. She's like, that's not in the book. This is wrong. Da, da, da. And I was just laughing so
like the
much
whole
while we were-
forest scene. I'm like, that's not how it went. That's not what happened. They were supposed to take his truck up to the it was supposed to be this hike.
Yep.
I'm like, what is this? And she's like,
And they
stop,
just
it's
walk
happening.
into-
It's happening.
And they just walk into
They just
the
walk
friggin'
into
what-
like forest.
Yep.
And he
And
like just
the
starts
school.
stalking her.
They just
I
literally
remember-
just like, what?
just
They're
left
supposed
school.
to take
That-
I-10 or something all the way until it stopped, which I don't even know what that
that
means.
whole
but,
scene
you know.
pissed me off. I remember watching it and being like, I get that we have to cut off things, but like this was such a important scene. And so
Mhm.
like you guys just straight up walked into a glen or into like a forest in the middle of school. Just walked
Yeah.
off property and was like, all right, we're gonna walk into the forest. No, nobody saw that. Nobody was like, hey, those kids are walking into the forest
They're
right now.
skipping class. The amount of time the Cullens are not in class, I'm like, I'm sorry. They should be kicked out of school. They've had accumulated too many absences to earn a grade for this semester. Like that. So it's fun as a first read for me because I respect what 13-year-old me would have loved. Like, okay, I would have been swooning over Edward this entire time. But like 31-year-old me, I'm like, there are so many red flags. He watches her sleep. That's terrifying. Like, no, girl, what are you doing? So
And there's a lot of people who like soccer romances, so
that is a kink. That is. However, for
I'm
my
just saying.
17-year-old daughter, I would be like, the fuck he is, dude.
Yeah.
He's outside your window?
I mean,
How
if
many
it's 17-year-old daughter, you're like 109. I'd be like, yeah, that's not for you either.
Red flag. But like, and then the next movie, so in New Moon, I was like, she's 18 now, whatever. It's fine. It's that one age. I'm like, okay, she just needs to be an adult. But then Jacob is only 16. I'm like, okay, that's problematic now because now he's a minor.
I didn't even catch that, like that he was 16. I do say that somebody pointed out, they were like, there's only like 2,000 something people in this town. There's probably like 20 people that are freaking staffed at this school. That's why they kept skipping. Nobody was catching them. Half the people were like teaching classes. There was nobody actually like manning the grounds.
No security
Yeah.
officers, nothing. There wasn't even a fence around the school at all.
Yeah.
And it was like in Twilight, the first book, I think there's like 327 students in the entire school. And Bella's her class that she came out of, her graduating class, who had over 1,000 or something like that, just in her graduating class, her regular class that she was in. So her entire high school where she was way larger than that. And so she was talking about that in the very first book about how the whole school only had like 300 kids all 4 years.
Yeah. Because
So
it's like it was supposed to be, what is it? There's a part in the first movie where they say like there's like a population is 2,136 or something like that. Something like within the 2,000 range. Where I was like, 2,000 people in a whole town? Yeah, there's probably like 300 kids in that school, and there's probably like maybe 30 adults.
Yeah.
Everybody else is like lumberjacking or doing something else throughout the town.
Lumberjacking. Oh my gosh.
Makes sense.
Okay, tell us what your favorite like theories or insights, like things that people clung to that you loved about the saga itself. And we haven't actually read. I'm really, really excited to read Midnight Sun because it's a monster.
Hey.
So I haven't read that yet. So that's actually
I
new
haven't
for
read it
me.
either. So I was
No,
like, hey,
same.
buddy, read.
It's
What's
a new
up?
one for me. Yeah, let's do it.
Theories. I'm trying to think. What theories do I have? Ooh, do you guys have any theories? I feel like maybe I'll something will pop into my head if I have like something to bounce off of.
Well, the only theory
Michelle's
I
like,
came
"Nah."
up with, well, the only ones
I'm
that
all
I thought
here
of
for
were
the
like,
ride.
or like the ending ones where they were talking about how Jacob imprints on Reneesme, and like my big one
name
we kind of
bothers
talked
me
about
so
already, which was
much.
that I feel like
sorry.
where I feel like
That was a mouthful.
I feel like the part about them being fated mates, which is not really a theory, but it's more of like that trope didn't really exist back then. And I think that that's like really evident to me now, rereading that like that's something very talked about now. Fated mates is a huge, huge thing in the trope world now, especially in romantasy. And it just wasn't a thing then. But I do think that that would be talked about now. If somebody were reading Twilight now or the books were coming out now, and maybe she changed the ages a little bit because I don't know that she would publish it as a 17-year-old girl with 100 and something vampire. I don't know if that would fly these days.
Yeah.
Some of the things that happened then, and Jacob being a minor and her being 18 and him being 16 and all the problematic parts of that, and like I just don't know if any of that would fly today like it did then.
Yeah, no,
Probably
definitely
not.
not.
I think it would be a different read now, and I think that she would change some of those elements if it were released now. I think my question to you is related to the last book. Did you like that it was a pregnancy trope, or would you now, if it were released, do you think that that part would change?
So in a general sense, I never have an issue with a pregnancy trope. I think that, to each his own. Everybody has an opinion about everyone is entitled to their own opinion. I can speak, I swear. So everybody is entitled to their own opinion. I have never had a problem with the pregnancy trope. I want to be pregnant at some point, so I've never looked at it like it was like a bad thing. Like it was just kind of like, oh, okay, like they got married, they had sex, and a baby happened. Like that happens. So it was never
Yeah.
an issue for me. I don't know. I never thought about it as something that would upset me. I guess I've kind of learned that over time that there's a lot of people that just don't want that to be the end all be all with a lot of stories, which is totally fine.
Right. And it's also
Okay.
a YA. So I feel like with that, it limits you a little bit because
Yeah.
for YA, you want to kind of stay more towards the word, which is like the traditional, you get married, then you have kids. That
Yeah.
you usually break out of that once you get to adult fantasy, when you have more an understanding the actual complexities of relationships. Not saying that teenagers don't understand that, but especially in the early 2000s where
Yeah.
the things
Mhm.
were less accepting if they weren't traditional. It's
Yeah,
also with
that's
the
totally
time.
true.
And also I think it's just, what else would have happened? I try to, a lot of times when I'll be like, oh, well, we should have changed something or something should have been different. It's like, okay, so what is the alternative of that? Like, what would have the conflict have been in that situation to cause her to get changed? Like, it would just be like, okay, so they lost her virginity and then he bites her and then all this stuff happens with, you know what I mean? Like, it made it so much more of a dramatic situation and more of a dire circumstance where she had to be turned on a dime. Like, it's like as soon as she
Mhm.
gave birth, it was like, okay, she has to get turned right now. Otherwise, it would have just been this ceremony.
Anticlimactic.
Yeah, it would have been like, okay, so we got back from our honeymoon. We laid down together. I bit her and I had to wait until she writhed in pain and was over it, and then we moved on. You know what I mean? I don't really
Right.
see what would
makes
have
sense.
the climax been
Um,
otherwise.
My mind is blowing right now because I'm thinking about Akatar and I'm thinking about Feyre's pregnancy and I'm thinking
All
about
the
Nesta's character arc and I'm
all
thinking
the
about
Mhm.
how,
the blueprint.
yes,
The blueprint. I
like
honest to
why was
goodness,
Akatar so comforting?
Yep. Why is it
Makes
such
sense.
a huge moment now? And why is it that it's the blueprint that's starting all the other things going into fairies and stuff like that, when that was the blueprint that started
Natalie.
all the thing with vampires? And,
That's your
and
theory. That is
everything
your
when
theory right
that's
there.
my
Oh my
theory. It
God.
started everything.
I will
Twilight.
say I hope if Nick, baby Nyx is portrayed, it looks 10 times less creepy than Reneesme when the baby doll
Ugh, please.
puppet thing.
Well, I don't know if you guys ever saw the original puppet, not the one that went on screen.
Probably
Look
don't
it
want
up.
to.
Oh my God, it's so much worse.
I have a
It's
thing about
so
haunted dolls.
terrifying. Oh my God,
I
it's
don't like
terrifying looking.
dolls. And I have
Girl,
a
then
daughter
don't
and
look it
she has
up.
a ton
Don't
of
look it up.
dolls. And it always I hate going in her room at night. I'm like, oh, there's so many dolls. If one of you moves, I'm burning this whole place down.
Yeah, I definitely look. I will say this: if you don't like dolls, do not look that up because it's so much worse than what was on screen.
Oh,
It
God.
looks like it's like faces melting. And then you
Oh
see
God.
the chick that plays Rosalie. I always forget her. Nikki Reed. She's
Nikki Reed.
holding the baby, and you could just tell she's like,
Oh.
oh God.
Why?
And trying to act normal, and I was just like, yeah, I'm really glad they changed that. But I feel like, obviously motion tracking and all the CGI and stuff wasn't as advanced, even though they did a
Right,
really
right.
good job with the werewolves. But
They
they
did.
did a terrible job with those babies. I don't know what was going on there. And then even when the little girl got bigger, they still CGI'd her face to try to make her look like
Yeah.
otherworldly. And I was like, just keep her regular face. Like she just looks creepy. Like I'm like, you're just making these kids look scary. But yeah,
Which I
genuinely
mean, children in horror movies are like, so yeah.
Yeah.
That I mean that tracks a little bit. There's children in a horror movie. Those are the little demon babies that you don't know. You don't mess with those.
Yeah, but this is supposed to be like the love child of these like beloved characters, and then this thing looked super scary, and I was like, okay, well, I guess we are where we are. But yeah, I'm definitely excited to see that they do a better job with Akatar, and I definitely do believe that they will. You know what I mean? We've come leaps and bounds in the last
Right.
20 years with with everything. Like
Technology,
Game of
yeah.
Thrones is crazy looking, like with their dragons and with everything. So I'm like, I would
Mhm.
imagine it would get even better now. So we'll
And
see.
that was so the last Game of Thrones that came out like what 6 years ago now.
yeah.
So
I'm saying,
that's
I
like
think it'll
even
be-
now, like technology is advanced so much.
Yeah, it's like I think it's like what is it? It says like it doubles or triples every year or something like
Mhm.
that. So like now I think that it'll be fine. We'll see. It is interesting to see the parallels between the two now that you pointed out the baby situation and like the whole like
Blows
oh
Danny's
so
mind.
they were both baby situations. I do remember that there was one thing that bothered me. This is not going to be like a spoiler like that, but it was basically like it bothered me that in the movies, I mean, there was really no way of them portraying this. They tried to, but it didn't really come across very well because obviously you don't have like a narrator or anything like showing. But I remember when Bella is giving birth and she is sitting there, she's like dying, and then you see her like gasping and like, and like you don't really like, but then they cut back to her face. It's
What
like
was she
there's
like,
nothing.
Natalie?
So
That's
she, it's gonna be the
What?
thumbnail. I mean, just like this. So when you see her like kind of like writhing in pain and stuff, well, it's actually because they give her like morphine in the book to like
Right.
help her with the pain, and so she's going through the transition and she's going through all this pain, but she's like stuck basically still because of the morphine. But you don't
Mhm.
get any of that in the movie, and you just get that in the book. There's like a really long explanation of that. But like in the movie, you're just kind of like, she's in pain, I think, but she's dead. I don't really know what's happening because I remember
Yeah.
watching it and being like, oh, she just looks dead, and she looks like she's also in pain. So is she like changing in her sleep? Because somebody had mentioned that they were like, oh, well, she looks like she's like writhing, but she also looks like she's dead. So I don't know what's happening. I was like, she has morphine on her, so that's why she can't really move. Like, so it was one of those things where it's like, screen, obviously, like books to screen is not
Right.
the best.
fair.
They're doing what they can. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Natalie, so much for joining us. We've had so much
Thank you
fun
guys
talking
for having
Twilight
me.
and all the things books. We don't know what we're quite going to do next, but we would love to have you back on with
Yeah, I
whatever
love
we
that.
need.
I'd love
We love
that.
having you on the show. Yeah,
Thanks,
absolutely.
guys. I love being here. I
Yeah.
feel like
Well, thank
I've
you.
gotten more groove.
Oh yeah,
Thanks.
definitely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But-
We got a roll going now. We've got a whole
Yeah.
vibe. I love it. We love having you here.
Well, thanks for having me, guys.
Of course,
All
always.
right. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Thank you so much, Natalie, for joining us again on Book Club After Dark. It's always such a fun time to have you with us. And,
Always.
obviously you fed us this time too. So that was just
Yeah.
a bonus.
I love that.
Loved your
Future
cookies.
guests bring food. It was
And
great.
now it's time for our mystery Q&A. These questions have not been shared with either of us prior to asking. Danny, why don't you go ahead?
All right. I'm going to hit you with one.
Okay.
What now seemingly unhinged millennial era show did you really like, but now realizes probably was pretty problematic?
Any of the cartoons that were playing in the early 2000s. Let's be real.
This is fair. Give me
Yeah.
one.
Billy and Mandy, Courage the Cowardly Dog. Like, I'm sorry. Wild. SpongeBob. There are some things I'm just like, did they actually just did they just say that? Was SpongeBob watching porn? Was he watching an anemone dance? Is that what we're really doing right now? Oh,
I don't know.
there is a lot of things, but the most unhinged I would have to say. I mean, I like Jersey Shore. I was really into Jersey Shore.
Okay.
And I kind of like
Okay.
Keeping Up with the Kardashians at the time, just because it was such
Ooh.
trash TV. And because it's just like with reality TV, you're just consuming and going brain dead with even now. But
Yeah,
just
for sure.
Jersey Shore is just, and they're rebooting. They're like
Gym
coming
Chan
up,
Laundry, GTL.
yeah.
yeah.
And yeah, they're rebooting now, so they're all coming back, and it's just like looking at like that time period of like we're just all gonna club and all gonna have fun and we're just gonna smash, and that's all we're gonna do and look a certain way, the tanning, the big hair bump, the prints, the animal print things, and the stripper heels.
Unhinged.
Like going to the club as a millennial, you are in 4-inch fucking heels, and you don't do that nowadays.
The fear that exists. Well, you just don't have to like. Yeah, we had pictures and stuff out there. We used to upload an entire album for
100 of pictures
for one
that
night.
are mostly blurry,
unhinged,
and this.
We were crazy. Yeah.
There was like no like random.
But there's no fear about
reels,
it. Like there
right?
was no.
You don't have someone.
No, you didn't have to worry
taking
about that.
a video of you and worrying about they're gonna post that to their story and they're gonna share it to other people,
or like
and
things
oh my
out
god,
of context. It
was just like you're having a good time.
Feels more vindictive now. Yeah.
Right.
Almost.
If someone's posting a video of you, it's likely to give you a bad name, unfortunately, especially with like young people.
I feel like embarrassment is more of a thing now, and we just didn't live our lives like that. We just didn't care.
I mean, especially if you were clubbing, you were probably too intoxicated to even care. It didn't matter at that point in time.
Yeah.
So I guess Jersey Shore would be my most unhinged show, but honestly, I would go back and watch it again just because it's just it's freaking wild. And you have all these reality shows now because of it. Like, let's be honest. Like, that's why we have Love Island.
What's that Mormon show? There was like this.
The Secret Life of Mormon Wives. Yes. That show is so crazy addicting, and they're so wild. Like, they're just I'm sorry. If you like Secret Life of Mormon Wives, comment below. Let's chat and be besties because no one else watches it. I'm like, I need to know how you feel about this whole of villains from season 2 and what's gonna happen season 3. So anyways,
I guess I'm gonna have to look at it.
If you just want to go brain dead and watch a bunch of like Mormons do like not really actual Mormon things, like
it said Secret Life. That was the vibe I generally got.
Right, and most of them aren't actually a part of the church. A select few are, so they're like Mormons, but not a part of the church anymore. So it doesn't really they don't really follow tradition, which makes it skin. But yeah, they just drink a lot of soda, so you know.
All right, so you are
my question.
Jersey Shore.
Oh yeah. What's yours?
So mine would be so they used to have for years. Tyra Banks had her America's Next Top Model show.
Yeah,
and I used to love it, but in hindsight, that was not cool. That show was brutal.
Yeah, it was very toxic.
They were so, oh my God, it was so toxic.
Yeah.
Girl, you didn't pose like this. Like, do you know why we're not picking you? You also need to lose a few pounds. Like, just like brutal at that time. Oh my God, it was so bad. But at the time we watched it, we never thought about that. It just it just never even was. We just watched it. Like, we just didn't even think anything of it. But yeah, we definitely... Early millennials, it was rough. It was a time, especially if you were not the right shape in high school. Like, I was probably too thin. You know, I was like really skinny. I didn't have much of anything in any department. But if you were too tall or you were too, too anything, you had to have this, like, there was a mold of what you needed to have. And it was emphasized and encouraged in our media for sure at the time. Because I remember them comparing, like, Britney Spears, Jessica Simpson, Christina Aguilera, talking about their weight. JoJo, like talking like at
if
that
they
time,
gained
like,
weight,
comparing
like
them.
it was like a complete like media frenzy if anyone gained any weight because I mean, being a size 0 was like ideal size, like super super tiny. I remember looking at like Jessica Simpson or Paris Hilton, and when Kelly Clarkson, gained weight, they were just like, I'm just thinking, like, why? Why does that matter? But that was like such a
No, yeah.
fixation.
That was a toxic thing at that time, for sure.
And I don't think that's necessarily entirely gone away. It's not as emphasized so much. There's a lot more voices that say, like, hey, maybe we shouldn't talk about that. Maybe that's not your fucking business. But
Yeah, but body shaming was not even a term.
no.
Nobody even used that.
No, it was
then.
just kind of normal
So-
to like make comments
Yep.
like that. And it's like, you know, I'm pretty tall for a girl. I'm 5'11", and I've been this height since I was 10 years old. I was in 5th grade, towering
Wow.
over my teachers. And it's just like, yeah, I was insecure about it, but I didn't need everyone else to point out like, hey, you're tall. It's like, gee, thanks. I didn't realize that.
Obviously,
that
I
I've been
know
this-
that I'm tall.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. It's so great buying jeans that don't fit my ankles properly. Thank you. So,
Oh,
yeah, it's okay. It's all right. Okay. My question to you is, so back in the 2000s when we had our cell phones, right? Because ringtones were so expensive, we'd have to record our ringtones, right? What was your ringtone on your phone?
oh God. Well, I'm older than you, so I bought my ringtones.
Did you?
But I didn't really
You
have the
actually
money to be
bought
buying them. But yes, yeah, I bought them.
Oh my
I did.
god.
And I had ringtones for like different people
Okay.
so that I would know like who was calling, and I would rotate them. Like I really remember I had a very heavy like kind of gangster rap era where I really loved the Carter 3 when it
Okay.
came out from
Yep.
Lil Wayne, and then like later there was some really great. You had Soulja Boy, right? And then like later you had even like better stuff, but there was some like really big, like LMFAO was a big one. They had tons of ringtones for them.
Right.
There was all kinds of like Party Rock was like a big one. People loved that song as their ringtone. I know I had Lady Gaga for one of my friends, had one of her songs. But yeah, I definitely bought them and rotated them pretty
Okay.
regularly.
Okay.
I can't think of. I had Billy Joel at one point. Like I rotated them. I was really big into all different styles. I think Linkin Park at one time. Like I just had kind of the full gambit of different chart toppers at certain times,
Okay.
and would kind of rotate them pretty regularly. But I do remember people recording a song
Mhm.
as their voicemail a lot.
Oh yeah.
And I did do that. Where
I
you would like
forgot about
record the
that.
song
Yeah.
instead of talking, and you would just like have a song and you just like record it. You like hit record really fast
Yeah.
on your phone, like to record your voicemail.
I remember that.
So that was definitely a thing. Yeah.
And,
And I
like,
went through a
making a
phase too,
voicemail.
especially in college. Like, yeah, but I went through like a phase where I listened to like a lot of bands that like people didn't know about, because that was
That
like
was
a cool
trendy.
thing to listen to a band that wasn't like, that was like trying to come up. And so there was a lot of like Thursday, they were huge, they were pretty big, but they had like smaller bands that would tour with them. And then I really liked Emery. I don't know where they're at now. I don't think they're together anymore, but they were pretty great. Under Oath was really good. I mean, I loved music at that time. Yeah, I saw Lil Wayne in concert, but he was 3
Really?
hours late, so
Oh.
that
I
was
mean, that
cool.
actually
Yeah.
checks out, to be
yeah,
honest.
it does. Yeah, but we were pissed. He didn't come on stage until like 1 a.m.
Oh.
But
I'm sorry, sir. It's
yeah,
past my
so that
bedtime.
was quite literally, yeah. And I was really young at that time too, and I was still pissed about it. But yeah, I loved music, so I would change mine
Fair.
out a lot to answer your
Okay.
question. So
Okay,
I didn't
that's fair.
have any specific one. Yeah.
Yeah. I believe I did the same thing. Like I changed it out depending on what was popular, but I definitely didn't pay for them.
Mhm.
I remember when I got my first phone, I didn't realize like when you were downloading a ringtone, you were buying them. And then my mom got the bill because I was just like, oh, I like this one. I like
Oh,
this
no.
one. I like this one. My mom got the bill. And she's like, what did you do? I'm like, oh my God, can I return them? I don't them.
No, you can't.
Yeah, I
You
know.
definitely
That's not a
cannot. Yeah.
thing. So I remember my
Mm-mm.
very first ringtone was Panic at the Disco.
Ooh, good one.
Yeah, was Panic at the Disco the I Write Sins Not Tragedies. Like that's the big one that everyone
Yeah.
knows. And then
Mhm.
I also remember
I think I had
like,
the Killers at one
yeah.
time.
Yeah, Mr. Brightside.
Mhm.
Yep, definitely had Mr. Brightside.
Yeah.
And then I remember recording Lollipop. And I'm like, the way that I had no business singing the song when I was in middle school. No business whatsoever. T-Pain
Yeah.
buy you a drink. I'm sorry, buy you a juice. Like what
Ooh,
was I doing? Like I don't
definitely love T-Pain.
I
Oh my
love
God.
T-Pain.
Florida represent.
Yeah.
He's from Tallahassee. Hey.
So yeah, I also like I had pretty widespread taste as, you know, I'd listen to
Mhm.
punk, I'd listen to rap. I didn't have like
Yeah.
you know, I'd listen to like classic rock and all those sorts of things.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it
You live in a
alternated.
relatively boring, quiet area. Your music varies usually because
Right.
you're like, I want to try all different things because there's not a whole
nothing.
lot else to do.
No, yeah, there wasn't a whole lot to do on that side of Florida, honestly. So yeah, I just remember it was when the radio would come on. If you didn't have the CD, or if you didn't have it downloaded on iTunes, or you know you downloaded it off a LimeWire and got a virus on your computer, you'd have to wait on the radio
Yeah.
and put it up to the
To your phone, to
yeah,
like the speaker,
and it
to
sounds
record it.
terrible because that's not
Oh,
how
horrible.
it's supposed to be, but it's better than
Yeah.
nothing. And now it's crazy because like I feel like rarely anyone has like personalized ringtones. Like
Nobody does
you
it.
have like the
No,
default
nobody has
iPhone
ringtones anymore.
Well, I mean, most people. My
I
phone
don't even
has
put
been
my
on
sound
silent.
on.
Yeah, my phone has been on silent
Yeah.
since I don't know, pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Like I don't.
Yeah.
If
My
it's,
phone is on silent.
No,
It doesn't
yeah.
ring.
and if it's
No.
on, it's on vibrate. So
Same.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's the only reason. Is it buzzing on my butt? I don't know. So
Which is also problematic, knock on wood, because if you lose it, you can't hear that thing to
Yeah.
save your life.
Well, then
You're
you
like,
have
it's never to be found again.
you have to find my
You have to ping
iPhone.
it.
Yeah.
Right,
So
right,
it doesn't
yeah.
even like so
Mhm.
that's like how it will ping. But I'm like, that's why I'm so bad at responding to text because I don't turn my notifications on. And like I like mess with my like do not disturb stuff. So like randomly my focus will come on and no text will come through. I'm like, why is it doing this? And I guess I didn't want to deal with people one day and set it on a focus. And I was like, oh, now it's on like a timer that it does it at certain points during the day.
We
I'm like,
went
okay,
from
cool.
like the generation that wanted every single type of noise available to your phone to like the generation that's now like, please do not call
We're
me. We're not taking phone
overstimulated.
calls.
We don't.
Yeah.
I don't pick up the phone if your number's not saved.
We
Leave
don't
me
want
a
it to
message.
ring.
If you knock on my door,
Yeah.
you best believe I'm
We-
hiding behind the wall, waiting for you to
Yeah,
leave.
like, what happened?
Because why are
We
you
went
here?
from like loud. We went from all the ringtones to everything like we want all the things to now like please
Leave me alone. Silence.
preserve our peace.
Let
Like,
me
no.
make my bread and tend to my
Yeah.
garden.
Our sourdough in peace. Yeah.
All right. Before we wrap up, let's talk about what's coming up next on Book Club After Dark.
So next week, I'm excited because we're going to be diving into Midnight Sun. And the way that this book is twice the size of Twilight, it's crazy bananas. But this is going to be Edward's perspective, Midnight Sun, of Twilight. This one came out in 2020, so way after all the other books. And
after,
I'm
like a
very
decade,
excited to see, what happens with Midnight Sun by Stephenie Meyer. It's going to be the final book in our summer Twilight series coverage. So hit that subscribe button to hear more of our exciting book talk. We're looking forward to dissecting this novel with you because there is no film, so it's only going to be the novel. And yeah.
And don't forget, we want to hear from you. If you have thoughts on Breaking Dawn or suggestions for future reads, drop a comment below or message us on one of our social media platforms at Book Club After Dark Pod. Show us your fan art, theories, or anything bookish you'd like to share.
You can also visit our website, bookclubafterdark.co, where you can get, if you're watching online, I got a new hat here. You can order this on there if you'd like. It's pretty cute. And you can stay up to date on our cozy content and check out the rest of our merch that we have on there.
That's all for tonight. Sleep tight, night owls. Until next time, happy reading.